When my parents divorced, I was quick to choose Dad. Mom frowned and said, "Nova, you've always been sharp. How could you pick your money-grubbing father? Clearly you still need proper upbringing, or you'll suffer for it." Screw your proper upbringing. In my past life, I chose Mom. Her orchid-like grace had caught the richest man's eye, but that gilded cage was all schemes and bullying. After barely surviving, I thought I'd finally made it. But Mom insisted I give everything to my sister, saying your sister's had a hard life, she deserves to experience luxury for once. When I refused, she locked me in the basement and starved me to death. I broke free from Mom's grip and ran to my visibly distraught father. "Dad, I still want to live with you," I pleaded. Meanwhile, my sister, who'd originally chosen Dad, got pushed toward Mom's side instead. I never imagined I'd get a second chance at life, let alone be reborn right at the moment my parents were divorcing. For me, this was the pivotal turning point of fate. In my past life, this was where all my misfortunes began. Their divorce happened because my mother developed an emotional affair with a middle-aged tycoon. Though nothing physical occurred, they'd spend hours philosophizing together through text messages every day. Dad argued with her countless times over this, but Mom would always sanctimoniously say things like whether bonds run deep or shallow, whether fate brings us together or apart. I should face it with equanimity, and some people are only meant to walk part of life's journey with you. It wasn't until I grew up that I realized what absolute bullshit that was, making infidelity sound so poetic. My sister and I were assigned parents by drawing lots. In my past life, I chose Mom, but life in that wealthy family was sheer hell. Since Mom brought me there, the whole household schemed to destroy me. At first I'd beg Mom for help, but after hearing her spout that turn the other cheek nonsense one too many times, I just gave up. Just when I was about to break free, Mother forced me to swap places with my sister. When I refused, she snapped, "You're as selfish as your father." Then she locked me in the basement, let my sister steal my identity, and tossed me a callous remark: "A few hungry days will teach you generosity. Starve to death without Mother ever coming." After death, I saw her enabling my sister to seduce my fiancé. "Your sister will be molded into meek obedience. She won't make a fuss." Huh. I'm already dead. What's there to fuss about? Those two were meant for each other. I was just a lucky draw accident, so I decided to set things right and return this chance to cultivate noble character to my sister. Mom frowned at my words and said, "Nova, you've always been clever. How could you take after your materialistic father? Seems your temperament still needs refining, or you'll suffer for it later." I shook my head firmly and said to Dad, "I love you, Dad. A little hardship won't change that." My father looked at me in surprise, his eyes slightly reddened. Mom chuckled lightly. "Everyone has their own destiny, Nova. You've chosen your path, now you'll walk it even if your knees bleed." My little sister laughed too, quickly clinging to Mom's arm and declaring her loyalty. "Don't worry, Mom, you're my favorite. I'll stay with you forever." Compared to Mom, who cheated yet keeps preaching from her moral high ground, Dad's unconditional love for his daughter is downright heartwarming. Mom, who married into wealth, naturally looks down on Dad's modest means. Truth be told, she should have left empty-handed, but she pulled that worldly possessions mean nothing card instead. Dad was shaking with rage, knowing exactly how it feels to be wronged silently. I cut to the chase. "Keep Mom's share, Dad. She clearly doesn't care about these trifles." Mom glanced at me and said, "I've never been one for petty competition, let alone materialistic pursuits." Just then, a Rolls-Royce pulled up behind our house. My sister's eyes lit up, but I continued, "The least worldly person in our family married into wealth. Aren't you tarnished by all that filthy lucre?" Mom, she shook her head in disappointment. "Mark my words. Your sharp tongue and petty attitude will bring consequences." With that, she strode off with my sister. In our past life, Wanda constantly complained to Mom after moving in with Dad. This time around, she'll learn what real suffering means. The cruel methods rich people use to torment others in novels all come from real life. My current life is completely different from my past life. When I worked at that tycoon's house, I had to do laundry, cook, entertain his spoiled children, and endure their constant teasing. I single-handedly did enough work to give all three of their maids paid time off. Living with Dad now means I just need to focus on studying hard every day. Mom hasn't worked a single day since getting married. Dad shoulders all our household expenses alone. Things could have been fine, but Mom insists on using Dad's salary for her charitable causes. One day she's donating money to mountain village kids. The next she's sending supplies to disaster zones. Charitable giving within one's means is virtuous, but she never knew moderation. Her donations would wipe out 2 months of my father's salary, leaving our household nearly penniless. Whenever money ran low, my mother would gaslight my father about his inadequacy. "I'm doing this to accumulate good karma for our child. If you weren't so useless, would you really stop me from doing good deeds?" Quibbling over every penny? How pathetic for a man. Life became much easier for Dad and me after Mom stopped her extravagant spending. We didn't just have enough to eat, I even got to start the piano lessons I'd always wanted. Even so, Dad would often pat my head and sigh, "Nova, I've failed you. I couldn't even afford a proper piano. Since you chose to stay with me, I'll move heaven and earth to give you the best." Through Dad, I learned that true love always feels like falling short. In my past life, though Mom remarried into wealth, I always wore the rich kids' hand-me-downs and lived on their leftovers, and still, Mom would constantly scold me for embarrassing her. Have some self-respect. Treating their cast-offs like treasures just makes them despise you more. Whenever Dad slipped me pocket money, Mom would confiscate it immediately. Indulging in luxuries will only spoil her. That's no way to raise my daughter. I smiled without a word. If I hadn't seen her flaunting Hermes today and Chanel tomorrow, I might have actually believed spending on yourself was sinful. After saving for 2 months, Dad was finally taking me to the mall to buy a piano. Then, as luck would have it, we bumped into Mom and my sister, whom we hadn't seen in ages. Barely halfway through our shopping, too, there were also the tycoon's son and daughter. Exactly the same scenario as in my past life. Mom carried a Hermes bag that required 6-figure purchases to qualify for, while the wealthy kids were decked out in head-to-toe haute couture. Only my poor sister Wanda dressed even more plainly than I did. Yet despite everything, she still tugged at Mom's sleeve when she saw me. My mother frowned the moment she saw the two of us. "What brings you to a place like this, feeding your materialistic desires? That's not right." My father remained silent, his gaze fixed entirely on Wanda with visible irritation. Dad never played favorites between me and my sister, but seeing Wanda's outfit must have pained him. I answered Mom. Dad signed me up for piano lessons and brought me here to buy a piano. The wealthy couple's children eyed me and Dad. "So this is your other daughter." My mother averted her gaze. "That's none of my business now." I pursed my lips silently, but Dad suddenly pulled Wanda forward. "Lou Rui, look at yourself dripping with jewels while Wanda's wearing rags. They say stepfathers bring stepmothers. This child's clothes aren't just unfashionable, they don't even fit properly. Is this how you fulfill your maternal duties?" My mother tilted her chin slightly and gave my father a dismissive glance. "Materialistic desires will only harm a child. What would you know?" That line sounded all too familiar. It was the same emotional manipulation I'd endured in my past life. My father laughed bitterly, grabbing Wanda's hand. "If your mom won't buy it, I will. Come on, let's go clothes shopping." As he tried to lead her away, I stayed rooted. Predictably, Wanda shook him off without hesitation. She haughtily dashed back to my mother's side. "No need. I have a new dad now, and my parents will get me whatever I want." "Mom, I want those shoes." My father stared at her blankly, clearly stunned by Wanda's words. The wealthy siblings exchanged glances, their expressions tinged with amusement. I tugged at my dad's sleeve and pointed to the piano store across the way, saying, "Dad, that piano is gorgeous." 3. Wanda stared back at me with unwavering confidence. Our silent standoff had begun. After all this time, she still hadn't figured out my mom's temperament. My mom took one glance at the shoe brand and immediately furrowed her brows. Meanwhile, Wanda kept locking eyes with me, radiating smugness. "Spending recklessly the moment you get some money. You should know this fortune belongs to your Uncle Oswald's family. It has nothing to do with you, understand? Didn't you wear those $20 shoes for over 2 decades? What makes them unwearable now?" Wanda's smile froze instantly. When she met the amused gazes of the siblings beside her, Wanda's face flushed crimson. It was only then that I realized my mother, who always preached Zen wisdom, was actually fawning over these rich kids. Seeing through her act, I couldn't help but sneer. This woman before me was pure hypocrisy, a wolf in sheep's clothing. I cut off my dad. "Dad, didn't you hear what my sister just said? She already has a new father now. Let's not meddle in other people's business." Wanda's face darkened even more. "Dad, I was just," but with her peripheral vision still fixed on that pair of siblings, she ultimately swallowed the rest of her words. "Dad, take me piano shopping." I grinned while tugging his arm to leave. Wanda had even less patience than my past self. She immediately started throwing a tantrum with Mom. "Mom, why, you've clearly got money. Why won't you even buy me a pair of shoes? You only married Uncle Oswald for his wealth. So why are you so stingy with me?" For the first time ever, Mom lost her composure and shouted in the mall, "Shut up. How did I raise such a spoiled, materialistic brat?" When I turned around, Mom had already stormed off in a huff. Meanwhile, that brother-sister duo sipped their $1,000 coffees while eyeing Wanda up and down. They chimed in unison. "What should we do? Looks like even your parents don't want you." Too timid to confront them, Wanda could only glare furiously at my father's and my retreating figures. "Oh dear sister, can't handle it already. But this is just the beginning. Soon enough she'll realize she's nothing more than these wealthy siblings' favorite pastime whenever they're bored." That woman's attitude would be the final straw that breaks the camel's back. After we parted ways, Wanda bombarded me with hateful texts. What are you so smug about? So what if you bought a piano fork? With your ugly duckling vibe, people probably think you're a street performer. Listen here, don't get too cocky. I'll carve out my place in Zachary's household one day, and you'll be green with envy. Actually, I should thank you. If you hadn't let me go with Mom, I'd be stuck suffering with Dad right now. I casually snapped a photo of the shoes on my feet, the exact pair Wanda had been eyeing earlier. Little sister's taste is impeccable. Dad got them for me. After I sent it, Wanda on the other end of the line completely lost it. My phone kept buzzing nonstop, drawing Dad's attention. Just some spam calls, he said. Block the number. If you like those shoes, get them. Your old man can afford it. I shook my head with a smile. I never wanted those shoes. I was just messing with Wanda. I don't like them. It's my sister who does. But Mom won't buy them for her. Dad fell silent, his Adam's apple bobbing twice. After a long pause, he muttered, Wanda said she's got a new dad now. Forget it. Her new father will get them for her. When I looked up, I caught Dad's slightly reddened eyes. Little did he know, reality was far crueler than that. In both this life and the last, Dad was always the one Wanda discarded. From then on, I made a point of monitoring Wanda's moves. 2 weeks later, she actually started working odd jobs for pocket money. I couldn't help but laugh when I heard, looks like Wanda's doing worse than I did in my past life. In my previous life, I tread carefully between that wealthy brother-sister pair. Survival was hard enough as it was. Then fortune smiled. Their daughter went abroad for studies, and their son took a liking to me. Had it not been for my mom and Wanda meddling, my relentless efforts in my past life would have finally paid off. But now, watching Wanda holding that foot-soaking tub, my face twisted through a dozen expressions. Massage therapist number 38, Wanda. Wanda's knuckles turned white gripping the tub, her perfect teeth grinding audibly, with countless ways to make money. I couldn't fathom why she'd work at a foot spa, wearing that tacky miniskirt and fishnets, no less, unless she was forced into this. Nova, you came here on purpose. This is all just to humiliate me, isn't it? Biting back laughter, I feigned shock with a hand over my mouth. What, sis? Didn't you and Mom marry into that wealthy family? Why are you here? I just came out for a stroll after walking too long. Standing up, I added, don't be so hostile. Even though our parents divorced, we're still sisters, having trouble. Let's go find Dad. He's in the next room. Already isolated at Zachary's household. Wanda burst into tears after my remarks. What's with the waterworks? Wanda blinked away tears before saying, it's nothing. I just missed you and Dad terribly. You're overthinking it. Sis, I took this job because the pay's good, and no work is beneath anyone. Uncle Oswald's mansion is gorgeous. His kids are lovely too, but I'm just a country bumpkin unfit for luxury. Wanna swap places? I chuckled. Seems Wanda saved all her cunning for me. Playing along, I asked, seriously. She nodded eagerly like a pecking chick, dragging me to Dad. Upon seeing him, she flung herself into his arms. Dad, sis wants to live with Uncle Oswald. Let her go. I've missed you so much. I want to come home. Wanda threw herself at my dad, pouring her heart out. Standing beside them, I could almost see how she must have convinced my mom to switch places with me in her past life. My father looked at me helplessly. But your sister. In desperation, Wanda dropped to her knees. Dad. Only after experiencing luxury did I realize I'm sentimental at heart. How could I live with Mom in that homewrecker's house after her affair? I'm your flesh and blood. With a cold smirk, I whispered to my father, but last time you said you'd gotten yourself a new dad. I had to say that for their benefit. A flicker of conflict crossed my father's eyes. Your sister would never go to Zachary's place. Let me figure out how to convince your mother to let you stay with me. I didn't stop him. In fact, I chimed in to support his argument, pretending to be considerate. I didn't ask Wanda to massage my feet but let her rest in my room for an hour instead, so I actually posted this online. Massage therapist number 38 at the foot spa is so fresh-faced, absolutely top tier. An hour later, a crowd of middle-aged men with questionable hygiene were already waiting outside for number 38. When I got home, my dad actually started seriously considering the idea. Using losing something as an excuse, I got the surveillance footage from the spa owner and immediately forwarded it to my mom. Given her holier-than-thou attitude, there's no way she'd tolerate her daughter being two-faced. Sure enough, 2 hours later I received the response video. In it, Wanda was hanging her head while saying in this flippant tone, Mom, I really don't want to leave you. Everything I said today was just messing with that idiot father of mine. Who'd want to live some miserable life with his useless ass? Hilarious that he actually believed me. Haha, thank God I didn't inherit his IQ. Love you, Mom. Wanda only lifted her head at the end, face all bruised and swollen. In a quick flash of the footage, you could see those siblings standing there with their arms crossed. Perfect. Once you're in a wealthy family, it's like being trapped in the ocean depths. Wanda could be tossed out in disgrace. But she sure as hell couldn't leave whenever she felt like it. I showed my dad the edited video with the second half cut out. He was so furious he nearly smashed my phone. Through gritted teeth, he repeated fine 3 times. From now on, I'll act like I never had this daughter. No sooner had he spoken than his phone rang again. My mother's voice came through the receiver. I've got news for you. Wanda's getting engaged to Zachary. She'll officially become part of their family. With no ties to you whatsoever, don't even think about stealing your daughter back. Zachary's that playboy heir from the wealthy family notorious for his womanizing ways and sadistic tendencies. In my past life, I was the one engaged to Zachary, but he never cared for me. Tormenting me was his only amusement, like dragging me out of bed in winter to fetch him from bars, in a damn slip dress no less. Or forcing me to watch him fool around with women on waterbeds at massage parlors while I played maid, kneeling dog-like by his bedside through the night. Just another Tuesday. At first I begged my mother for help. She snapped, "You owe this privileged life to me and Uncle Oswald's family. Only ungrateful wolves bite the hand that feeds them." Then she twisted my words to Zachary. What followed was worse humiliation. Cornered, I endured, until suicidal thoughts crept in. That's when he dangled hope. Who'd care if you offed yourself? And nobody like you should be grateful being my placeholder fiancé. Nova, surely you don't think I'd marry trash. Stick around a year until I'm done playing house, then scram. Studying abroad's more than your provincial ass deserves. He wasn't wrong. I craved that escape. So for a year, I swallowed every degradation. Just as the year was ending and Zachary was about to pay me off with $1 million to leave, my mother made me switch places with Wanda. After death, I saw her, the very picture of moral righteousness, letting Wanda climb into Zachary's bed. Perfect. Now Wanda didn't even have to scheme her way into becoming Zachary's fiancé. She got the throne handed to her. Well, this lifetime's sorted. Someone's taken my place. It's been 2 months since that call from my mother. Wanda's been completely off the radar these past 2 months. Just when I was frustrated about not hearing any news of Wanda's misery, my mother unexpectedly showed up at our door. Seeing her standing there dressed like a socialite, both Dad and I froze. My father blurted out instinctively, "What are you doing here? I didn't steal your precious daughter away. From now on, Wanda means nothing to me." Mother, wearing a hat, only turned to look at us with a faint chuckle after hearing this. She held out an invitation card between her fingers. "No need for stealing. Wanda's now Zachary's fiancé. Why would she come back to this impoverished life with you? But really, there's no call for such bitter remarks. I've always taught Wanda not to forget her roots. Tomorrow's their engagement party. Come or not, that's your choice." My father's nostrils flared with anger as he pointed into the distance, urging Mother to leave immediately, but before he could voice his refusal, I gently patted his hand. "Sounds good. Thanks for making the trip, Mom. We'll definitely be there tomorrow." After she left, my dad gave me a puzzled look. "Nova, those two will definitely give you backhanded compliments tomorrow. I don't want you subjected to their scorn," I reassured Dad, relieved to see he'd completely let go of Wanda as his daughter. Tomorrow's the perfect day to watch the drama unfold. How could I possibly miss it? Just like in my past life, the engagement party was held at this 5-star hotel. The lavish decorations screamed wealth at every turn, showcasing Zachary's family's dedication to this event, but only I knew the truth. Beneath that gilded surface lay nothing but a gilded cage, easy to enter, but escaping would cost you dearly. Dad and I found a quiet corner, trying to stay invisible. Half an hour later, the wealthy family made their grand entrance. My mother had always been distant with Dad, like some emotionless NPC, showing neither affection nor enthusiasm in their conversations. Yet here she was, flashing practiced smiles and chatting effortlessly with guests, a far cry from her tight-lipped silence at home. Dad let out a quiet sigh and looked away. I chuckled softly. "Dad, do you think Mom actually loves this old man, or did she just sell out for money? Miss, I'm above material things. Could she really have been corrupted by greed?" My father shook his head, then whispered to me, "Nova, doesn't Wanda look like she's lost weight?" Following his gaze, I chuckled. Lost weight. She'd practically shrunk 2 sizes, though her face was caked with foundation and blush. The exhaustion in her eyes was unmistakable. Gone was her former boldness, replaced by a nervous, tentative air. Only when approaching us did she make a conscious effort to straighten her posture. She didn't even greet my father, simply stating, "I can't believe you actually came. Let me introduce my fiancé, Zachary," Wanda announced proudly, but her companion remained silent. When she glanced sideways with a smile only to find Zachary staring intently at me, her expression nearly faltered. "Zachary, this is my biological father, haunted by past life trauma. I'm trying my best to move on, but can't shake this lingering dread. It's not Zachary I fear, it's those horrific memories." Zachary only snapped out of it when Wanda nudged his arm. He shot Wanda a glance, lips curled in careless mockery. "You're real, Dad. Funny how you call me Dad so sweetly at home." The edge in Zachary's voice was unmistakable, freezing Wanda's smile mid-curve. My dad couldn't stand their sarcastic remarks and got up to leave. As he reached the door, I suddenly said, "Dad, I need to use the restroom. Wait for me." Sure enough, The moment I stepped into the bathroom, Wanda barged in right after me. The second she saw me, she hissed through gritted teeth, "Nova, you're the one who showed Mom that surveillance footage, aren't you?" I smiled and shrugged. "Nope, stop lying." Poor Wanda had to keep her voice down despite her fury. "I've seen your chat history with Mom. You sent it. You tricked me into saying those things and got me beaten black and blue. Sorry, but watching her throw a tantrum helplessly cracked me up." Of course, my laughter only made Wanda seethe harder. "5, she raised her hand to slap me, and now you're after my fiancé, you little homewrecker. Listen here. I'd rather throw my trash to the dogs than let you have even a scrap of it." Wanda was pitifully thin. I barely exerted any strength when gripping her wrist. "Sweetheart, are you implying Zachary is trash?" Just one casual remark from me made Wanda's gaze dart nervously, and honestly, with Uncle Oswald's family being so well off, how did you end up looking like skin and bones? I gave her bony wrist a squeeze, and Wanda instantly jerked her hand back. She glared at me defensively. "What would you know? I'm slimming down deliberately for the engagement party. Stay away from my fiancé." With that, Wanda hurried off. I smiled without responding. Wanda's always been like this, even if she didn't want something. The moment I showed the slightest interest, her possessiveness would flare up instantly. The same went for Zachary, but she didn't know I'd spotted him leaning against the wall the moment I stepped out of the restroom. "Sis," that revolting term made my skin crawl. "Since you're Wanda's sister, I should call you sis too, right?" I'd come back deliberately to wait for Zachary. After knowing him for a lifetime in my past, I understood exactly what kind of scum he was. He wouldn't care about having a fiancé or attending an engagement party. If anything, hitting on his fiancé's sister at their own engagement would only excite him more. Clenching my hidden fist, I steadied myself before casting him a deliberately timid glance. "Brother-in-law." Zachary's face lit up with disgusting glee. "Leaving so soon, sis? Why not stay a little longer?" Zachary tipped 2 steps closer, his cologne invading my nostrils. I clenched my jaw to stop myself from recoiling. Just as he reached out with wandering hands, I feigned coy resistance before swiftly retreating half a step. "Let's catch up later, brother-in-law. My father's waiting outside." With that, I hurried away, acutely aware of his lingering gaze burning into my back. I refused to believe Zachary was oblivious when Wanda threw herself at him. Now it makes sense. Why would my mother dote on that destitute girl? She's probably using her daughter to cement her own position in Zachary's household. 2 peas in a pod, one with honeyed words hiding venom, the other scheming malice, both turning blind eyes to suffering. Given the second chance at life, I'll make sure nobody keeps living peacefully. Zachary somehow obtained my number and bombarded me with calls and texts. I played along briefly, but when he escalated, I laughed it off. "Mind your place, brother-in-law." Then came the digital guillotine, blocked everywhere. Yet within 3 days, my mother summoned me to a suspiciously empty cafe she'd booked entirely. I deliberately said with a tinge of sarcasm, "Mom's really changed these days, even needs the whole place cleared just for coffee. This must be the first time you've seen me since marrying Uncle Oswald, right? I almost thought you'd forgotten all about me after taking my sister away." Seeing me react this way, Mom visibly relaxed. After calming me down for a while, she inevitably brought up Zachary. "Nova, what do you think of Zachary? He's fine, but he's my sister's fiancé. What's that got to do with me?" Hearing this, Mom immediately sat beside me, putting on that self-righteous expression again. "Your sister's been living comfortably with me for years, while you've endured hardship with your father. It's time you two switched places, Nova. Would you come with me to Zachary's? Since you think he's suitable, why not take care of him together with your sister? After all, you're blood relatives. It was common for sisters to share a husband in ancient times. We should learn from their magnanimity and generosity." Even though I was mentally prepared, her twisted logic still managed to shock me. She then shoved a card into my hand, a hotel key card. "Mom, why are you giving me this? Little sister will be furious." Patting my hand with feigned wisdom, she said, "Relax, I'm molding your sister properly. She'll eventually develop my serene temperament and won't make a fuss." How familiar those words sounded, identical to what she'd said in my past life. After leaving, I made a call. "Got any takers for room 1444? Don't worry, the payout will be generous." Hanging up, I staked out the hotel entrance and tipped off a media outlet. When the reporter arrived, I handed over the recording of Mom's conversation. Her face lit up with glee. "Now this is scandalous gold." Watching 2 heavily dressed girls enter the hotel, I grabbed the overexcited reporter beside me. "There's bigger tea." Zachary solicited prostitutes, the reporter muttered excitedly. "This is my golden ticket, scandal of the year." She worked lightning fast, immediately leaking the audio and photos. The bombshell sent shockwaves through the internet. Holy shit, what kind of mother says that? Pushing her own daughter to sleep with her sister's fiancé, and then preaching about being graceful as chrysanthemums and showing tolerance. Fucking hypocrite. Bullshit. Eat shit, you feudal relic. You'll never be anything but a man's lapdog. That daughter's no saint either, she practically agreed while pretending to resist. Which one is she? The one with Zachary. Zachary is a total playboy. You can tell he's trouble just by looking at him. The nastier the online insults get, the harder I laugh. But as the recording got out, the backlash against me kept growing louder, so I posted a Weibo thread to clarify. I wasn't there, I've got basic decency. Those two were sex workers. Zachary was soliciting prostitutes. None of this involves me. The explanation only fueled more online vitriol. The scandal blew up so big that even Zachary's family connections couldn't spring him loose, not with this much public scrutiny. Though honestly, my poor mom took the hardest hit of all. She's been blowing up my phone nonstop since this whole mess started. After explaining everything to Dad, I just sat back and watched the drama unfold. It wasn't until her 100th plus call that I finally picked up. Speak. There was stunned silence before she exploded. Nova, raising you is a complete waste. You're nothing but a wolf. Why did you record it? Why leak it? If you didn't want to go, why not just refuse? Do you realize Uncle Oswald is divorcing me over this? Have you ever considered me? As her hysterical shrieking continued, most of my resentment faded. Mom, forgot you're serene as chrysanthemum's persona. Just let things take their course. Why fuss over such trivial gains and losses? I hung up mid-sentence and blocked her, yet 2 days later, she showed up at our doorstep with luggage. Dressed in her old clothes, she stood rigidly straight with that trademark aloof expression, though her disheveled hair and bruised eyes betrayed the icy composure she was trying to project. Why are you back? Dad blocked the doorway. I've done more than enough for you. You're not welcome here. 6. She shot my father a glance. Still as narrow-minded as ever, now that I've come back. Can't we just make this work? Nova ruined my marriage, and now you all want to see me homeless. I pulled my dad aside and said with a smile, Mom, your ties with Dad are over. Some bonds last, some don't. You need to accept that. I know you're as refined as chrysanthemums, accustomed to mansions. Our humble place isn't worthy of you. Best look elsewhere. With that, I slammed the door. Dad gave me a conflicted look, patting my head. Nova, play me a tune. Music filled the room while she wailed outside. I may be refined, but I can't be homeless. You did this to me. As my daughter, you must take care of me. No one responded. 3 days later, police unexpectedly showed up, asking Dad to identify a body at the station. They said Wanda had been found decomposing in a basement. Though Dad claimed he'd disowned Wanda, his body still swayed when he heard the news. Dead, dead. She was fine. How could she die? Why was she even in the basement? Seeing Wanda's corpse, Dad's eyes reddened. My fault. I should have kept both you sisters with me. The officer sighed at this. The victim likely starved to death, though she bore multiple injuries. Zachary confessed to beating her, but that wasn't the direct cause. Of course it wasn't. Mom was the one who locked her in that basement. I suppose after Mom left, no one in Zachary's family remembered Wanda existed. That's what indirectly led to Wanda's death. I pinched my own thigh hard. Tears instantly streaming down my face. Was it that tycoon? Arrest him. He must have been abusing my sister. This was already a huge scandal, and now with a life lost, countless eyes are watching closely. Even if the Zacharys wanted to pull strings, they couldn't. What's worse, netizens have started boycotting everything associated with the family. A life for a life, like father, like son, rotten to the core. Yet the billionaire protested his innocence vehemently, insisting even under camera surveillance that he wasn't the culprit, but nobody bought it. Still lying through your teeth when death's at your doorstep, under mounting public pressure. Both father and son from the Zachary family were taken into custody. 7. Meanwhile, the Zachary family's corporate valuation plummeted, teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. Rumor has it the father and son even got into a physical fight at the detention center. You bastard, was it you who killed Wanda? What the hell does that have to do with me? Stop playing innocent. There's nothing I've done that you didn't know about. Zachary's right. Every last one of the Zacharys is guilty as sin. Though Wanda wasn't locked up by that tycoon personally, he was fully aware when my mother took that action. Just like when they confined me in my past life, he stood right there in the hallway, watching. As for my mother, for someone like her, perhaps leaving her homeless is the real punishment. After these scandals broke out, Mom became public enemy number 1. Nobody would hire her, not even rent her a room. Right now, she's begging in the busiest district when someone kicks over her bowl. Hey everyone, look, isn't this the famous chrysanthemum Mom? Reduced to panhandling now. The gust swept through, sending the $2 bills fluttering from the bowl. From my car, I watched coldly as she, once so proud, stumbled desperately after the money. Others along the road kept tossing bills like they were teasing monkeys. Pick it up. Go on, grab it. Just as she managed to snatch it, someone yanked the money back. Who said it's yours? Shameless. People kept hurling cash onto the road like it was some cruel circus act. Pick it up, pick it up. Just as I finally grabbed it, someone snatched the money back. Who said you could have it? Shameless. I rolled up the car window as both my father and I looked away. Let's go. Your dad hired you a top-tier piano teacher today, cost a fortune, can't be late. I was playfully clinging to Dad's shoulders. In my past life, my sister could have chosen to free me from the basement, but at the last moment she told our mother to keep me locked up another week. She won't starve to death anyway. In the end, I starved to death, compared to my hypocritical, selfish mother and my backstabbing sister who left me to die. My dad, who genuinely adores his daughter, is an absolute godsend. Story 2. In my past life, Grandma left me a jade pendant and golden bracelet on her deathbed. My sister thought the pendant was bad luck, so she snatched the bracelet and left without a care. But when I kept the pendant, I accidentally unlocked a mystical spring dimension and rose from rags to riches. After squandering her fortune, she actually pushed me off a skyscraper. Back on that fateful day of choosing, my sister snatched the jade pendant. This time it's mine. I lowered my head to hide my smile. She never knew the true spiritual spring wasn't in the pendant at all. This heirloom jade pendant, heiress, Freya, which of you shall inherit it? Grandmother asked weakly, her loving gaze shifting between us. Both my sister and I were her beloved granddaughters. This jade pendant, I'll take it. Eris's voice startled me awake. With a slight movement, I realized I was actually kneeling by Grandma's bedside. No weightless plunge from the building before death, no overwhelming regret and resentment, no final impact of hitting the ground. Freya, have been reborn. My gaze fell upon the grayish-green jade pendant in Eris's hand. In my past life, my sister scorned this pendant as ugly and filthy, calling it a dead man's trinket, and stubbornly refused to take it. Finally slipping the gold bracelet off Grandma's wrist before leaving. Now in the morning hall, flickering candlelight illuminated her flushed cheeks, tinged with excitement. I lowered my head to hide the shock in my eyes, my heart pounding like war drums. She had been reborn too. Freya, you wouldn't fight your sister for this, would you? Eris clutched the jade pendant tightly in her palm, flashing me a saccharine smile. I've always had a fondness for jade. Let me keep this as a memento. You take the gold bracelet instead, it's far more valuable. I slowly raised my head, my gaze tracing the tense knuckles of her nervously clenched fingers. How different from her words in our past life. I wouldn't take this worthless jade even if you paid me. If you like it, take it, sis, I murmured softly, reaching to remove the tarnished gold bracelet from Grandma's wrist. The instant my fingers brushed against Grandma's icy skin, a lump formed in my throat. In my past life. It was right after Grandma's funeral that I discovered the spiritual spring hidden within the jade pendant. My sister sold the bracelet for cash, squandered it all, and in her destitution, ultimately turned murderous toward me. With a dramatic thud, my sister suddenly knelt before Grandma's memorial, wailing theatrically, "Rest in peace, Grandma, Freya and I will be just fine," even as she sobbed. Her eyes kept darting to the jade pendant in her hand. Fingers anxiously tracing its surface as if anticipating something, I watched her performance with cold detachment. Her desperation made it obvious. She'd discovered the pendant's secret. Since when did Eris become so dutiful? Mother murmured through tears. She usually avoids these rituals. Mom, Eris cut in hastily. I just had an epiphany. Grandma always loved us most. I quietly adjusted Grandma's burial garments, pausing at the collar where her favorite gardenia should have been pinned. In my past life, I placed it there, but not this time. I put Grandma's favorite gardenia here, Eris said eagerly, pointing to the slightly wilted white flower on Grandma's chest, her face brimming with ingratiation. Remember how she said its fragrance could guide the way? A chill ran down my spine. Grandma told me this in private. My sister wasn't even there. Not only has she been reborn, she's trying to relive my past life's experiences. After the funeral, Eris was oddly bustling about. While helping sort through Grandma's belongings, her eyes kept darting toward the jade pendant, seizing every unobserved moment. She'd secretly prick her finger to drip blood onto the jade pendant or examine it under moonlight, her growing agitation becoming increasingly impossible to conceal. Freya, have you chosen Grandma's burial site yet? Father asked while smoking his pipe. I'd like to follow ancient rites and bury her on that flat land behind the hill, I said softly. Grandma always loved the open view there. Why bother with all that? Eris interjected. The public cemetery's so convenient, we could bury her tomorrow. She was itching to conclude the funeral quickly so she could focus on studying the jade pendant. No, I said firmly. Grandma wanted a traditional burial. I've already asked Uncle Leo to dig the grave tomorrow. As Eris opened her mouth to object, Mother nodded. Let's respect Freya's decision. The old lady did mention it. The next day at high noon, the sun beat down mercilessly. Uncle Leo and two young men were digging the grave at the chosen spot when their shovels suddenly struck something hard. There's a bluestone slab down here, Uncle Leo exclaimed in surprise. Just as I stepped forward to investigate, a sudden burning sensation shot through my wrist. It came from the little bear hair tie Grandma gave me last year, which I'd kept wearing as a memento. Looking down, I saw the crude bear carving on the otherwise ordinary hair tie was now emitting a faint blue glow. A surge of warmth raced up my wrist straight to my heart. Darkness clouded my vision as an ancient voice, audible only to me, echoed in my ears. The spirit spring chooses its master, bestowing endless blessings. Only with a virtuous heart can one see the journey through. When I opened my eyes again, the world had changed. I could sense a wondrous realm hidden within the hair tie on my wrist, a crystal clear spring, dark fertile soil, and a floating ancient book. Freya, what are you zoning out for? Eris's voice snapped me back to reality as she eyed me suspiciously. You're pale as a ghost. Heatstroke. I forced a smile, maybe a little, yet out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the jade pendant in her hand remained dull and lifeless. So that's it. The spiritual spring was never in the jade pendant at all. It's buried 3 feet underground in the dragon vein stone. In my past life, I bound myself to the pendant only because it was the sole token I carried. My fingers brushed against the bear-shaped hair tie on my wrist as my heartbeat quickened. My sister had grabbed the wrong treasure, while the real serendipity was glowing warmly around my wrist. In the dead of night, I curled up on Grandma's old wooden bed, the bare hair tie radiating faint warmth against my skin. After securing all doors and windows, I focused my consciousness into the hair tie as the method surfaced in my mind. The world spun violently before I found myself standing in a bizarre dimension. It's easily 3 times larger than my previous life's spirit spring realm. Beneath my feet stretched half an acre of fertile black soil, its surface glistening like polished onyx. At the center bubbled a crystal clear spring, surrounded by unfamiliar medicinal herbs, most miraculously. An ancient yellowed book hovered midair, its seal script title Mystic Spring Codex glowing faintly on the cover. As I touched the tome, it flipped open to reveal 3 treasures of the sacred spring: water that heals wounds, soil that nurtures rarities, and this codex that unveils mysteries. The moment my fingers brushed these words, pages turned to display detailed herb illustrations with cultivation methods. My heart skipped a beat. In my past life there was only the spirit spring, but now I've gained fertile black soil for cultivating rare herbs and a treasure trove of knowledge. Ripples suddenly appeared on the spring's surface, revealing these words: for the new master's arrival, we give 3 spirit seeds that will mature in 30 days. 3 faintly glowing seeds rose from the spring's depths and landed in my palm, with utmost care. I planted them in the black soil and nourished them with spirit spring water. The seeds sprouted tender shoots at visible speed, nearly making me gasp aloud. Freya, what are you muttering about in the middle of the night? My sister's voice came through the wall, accompanied by impatient thumps. I quickly snapped out of my trance, heart pounding like a drum. Nothing, just sleep talking, weirdo, Eris grumbled as I heard her turn over, her jade pendant clinking against the bed frame. Moonlight streamed through the window cracks as I gazed at the little bare hair tie on my wrist, a smile tugging unconsciously at my lips. The jade pendant my sister stole will probably never react, while the real treasure is actually this unassuming bare hair tie around my wrist. Early next morning, I was jolted awake by shrill arguing in the courtyard. Impossible, this can't be. Eris's voice was hysterical. It was supposed to be. I tiptoed to the window and peered through the crack. Watching her examine the jade pendant in the sunlight, her face twisted with anger and confusion. Suddenly, she grabbed the fruit knife from the table, made a quick cut on her finger, and let the blood drip onto the pendant. The blood droplet slid down the jade surface, leaving no trace behind. Damn it, she hurled the pendant to the floor in frustration, then frantically picked it up to check for cracks. Eris, what are you doing? Mother gasped as she opened the door. Startled by the bloodstains on the floor, Eris suppressed her rage. It's nothing, Mom. I just miss Grandma. Clutching the jade pendant, she shot a venomous glance toward my window, making me retreat further into the shadows. At breakfast, Father tapped the table. Freya, the Lius sent matchmakers yesterday. Your mother, and I think it's a good match. My chopsticks froze midair. The Liu family's simpleton son last life when my sister took the bride price and jilted him. Our family had to pay double compensation. Is it my turn in this lifetime? Dad, I'm still too young. What do you mean too young? Mother cut me off. The Lius are offering 80,000 in bride price, enough to buy your brother a small apartment in town. Eris chimed in, fanning the flames. The Lius are such a good match. Sure, their son's a bit, but that's nothing. Freya would live like a queen there. I kept my head down, shoveling rice to hide the ice in my eyes. In our past life when she fled the wedding, it was me who worked day and night doing handicrafts to repay her debts. This time around, she couldn't wait to throw me into the fire. I'll think about it, I said softly. No more thinking. Father slammed the table. It's settled. After dinner, I slipped out under the pretense of visiting Grandma's grave. Kneeling on the freshly turned earth before Grandma's grave, I whispered, I'll treasure the gift you gave me, Grandma. The hair tie around my wrist grew warm, as if answering me. On my way down the mountain, I heard panicked cries for help. Following the sound, I saw the village chief's daughter-in-law sprinting with a child in her arms. The boy's face was turning blue, his limbs convulsing. My baby's been bitten by a venomous snake. Help, the woman wailed as villagers gathered around helplessly. A page from the Sacred Spring manual flashed through my mind. The chapter on antidotes. I rushed forward in 3 quick strides. Let me see. The child, about 5 or 6 years old, had 2 tiny marks on his calf with darkening flesh around them. I pretended to examine the injury while secretly channeling a drop of healing spring water from my spatial storage onto the wound. We need medicinal herbs. I looked up at Lady Bell. I know of a detoxifying herb that grows in the back mountains. There's no time. The town hospital is an hour away, Lady Bell sobbed. Nearly fainting from distress, trust me, I said firmly, while covertly massaging the child's wound with the mystical spring water. Dark blood oozed slowly as the child's breathing steadied. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, I continued, lay him flat first, I'll gather herbs. I dashed to a secluded spot and swiftly harvested a handful of freshly sprouted antidote herbs from my dimensional space, returning to the child. I chewed the herbs into a poultice for his wound, then secretly mixed in a few drops of spirit spring water for him to swallow. In less than 10 minutes, the child's complexion turned rosy and their eyes fluttered open. Miracle, gasped the surrounding villagers. Madame Bell threw her arms around me. Freya, you're our family's savior. She pulled out a wad of cash from her bag and pressed it into my hands. Please accept this token of our gratitude. Unable to refuse, I reluctantly accepted. I counted, a full $5,000 in my past life. The first person I saved was a wealthy merchant from the city, but this time it's a village child. The feeling couldn't be more different. Since when did Freya know medicine? A villager asked curiously. Too, my late grandmother taught me some folk remedies, I replied with a smile, catching Eris standing at the crowd's edge in my peripheral vision, her expression unreadable. Back home, I hid most of the money and left only $500 on the table. Dad, Mom, this is a thank you gift from Madame Bell's family. Father's eyes lit up as he immediately grabbed the money and started counting. Eris leaned in. Freya, since when could you heal people? Grandma never taught us such things. You're always running around outside. Of course you wouldn't know, I replied calmly, deliberately showing the bare hair tie on my wrist. Grandma only taught me. Even this hair tie was specially left for me. Eris's pupils contracted as she reached for my hair tie. Let me see that, I dodged nimbly. Don't you already have your jade pendant, sis? Let me keep this cheap little trinket. Her face cycled through shades of pale before forcing a smile. Freya, I'll talk to Mom and Dad again about the Liu family matter for you. No need. I met her gaze squarely. I'll handle my own affairs. Just then, the sound of a car engine came from outside the courtyard gate. A straight-backed figure in military uniform stepped out of the jeep, scanning our yard. Excuse me, is this the Darren residence? The officer's voice was clear and commanding. Our entire family froze in surprise. My father was the first to react, jogging forward to greet him. Good day, officer, I'm Darren. How can I help you? I'm Ethan from the Military District Research Office. The officer showed his credentials. We're conducting folk customs research in the village, and locals recommended your elderly family members as experts on local traditions. His words trailed off as his gaze fell upon me, a flicker of barely perceptible shock flashing in his eyes. My heart nearly stopped. Ethan, the officer I was deeply in love with in my past life, but never got to marry. Why is he showing up here ahead of time? What chilled me to the bone was Eris swaying her hips as she stepped forward, extending her hand with a coquettish voice. Good day, Commander Ethan, I'm Eris, and this is my sister Freya. Our grandmother just passed, but we're quite familiar with local customs and would love to assist. She deliberately dangled the jade pendant in her hand, successfully catching Ethan's attention. I held my breath. Had he been reborn too, or was it? Ethan quickly regained his composure and politely shook hands with each of us, when his fingertips brushed against my palm. I distinctly felt him give my finger a subtle tug, just like our secret signal during dates in our past life. Eris didn't notice this little gesture, busy showing off the unresponsive jade pendant. Officer Ethan, this heirloom from my grandmother is said to be 200 years old. I took a step back, watching Ethan's perfect poker face and Eris's dramatic performance, when suddenly everything clicked. In this rebirth game, the players might not be limited to just us sisters. In the pale dawnlight, I crouched by the dark soil in the space, carefully harvesting the fully grown antidote herbs. In just 3 days, those few seeds had flourished into lush medicinal bushes, their leaves still glistening with dew from the spirit spring. According to the ancient manual, these herbs should fetch a handsome price. I carefully arranged the medicinal plants in the prepared bamboo basket, then camouflaged them with ordinary weeds. As I exited the dimensional space, the bear-shaped hair tie around my wrist grew faintly warm, as if warning me to stay cautious. Ever since discovering this pocket dimension, I've sensed something peculiarly sentient about this hair accessory, more vividly alive than the jade pendant from my past life. The courtyard lay in perfect stillness, with all household members still deep in slumber. I slipped quietly out of the house and made my way to the town market. The morning market was already bustling with activity. I found an inconspicuous corner, spread out a rough cloth, arranged some antidote herbs, and used charcoal to scrawl specialized in snake bites and insect stings on a broken wooden board. Little girl, are these herbs genuine? A wrinkled old hunter squatted down, skeptically poking at my herbs. Try a bite of this leaf, I said confidently, handing him a plant, bitter at first but sweet aftertaste. That's how you spot real antidote herbs. The old hunter chewed the leaf, his eyes lighting up. Genuine mountain harvest. How much? $3.50 a plant. That's steep. His eyes widened. I lowered my voice. This is a 30-year-old heritage variety, nearly extinct in these mountains now. Just 2 days ago, I used it to save Madame Belle's little treasure. The old hunter hesitated briefly before pulling out 2 crumpled bills. Give me 4 plants. My brother got bitten by a 100-pace viper last week, still hospitalized. Business was brisk. Over half my herbs sold shortly after opening. Just as I was counting my earnings, a shadow fell across my stall. I'll take all these herbs. The clear male voice made my heart skip a beat. Looking up, I met Ethan's hawk-like sharp eyes, though dressed casually today. His military bearing still shone through. Since when does Commander Ethan know about herbs? I forced composure while nervously twisting my hem. In our past life, we first met at the county hospital. He was hospitalized from training injuries while I was there selling mountain herbs. Back then, he didn't enter my life this early. Ethan crouched down, fingertips brushing the herb leaves. Purple-backed honeysuckle with reticulate venation. That's the hallmark of wild heritage varieties. He looked up, meeting my gaze directly. This strain was nearly extinct 20 years ago. Where did you gather these, miss? A cold sweat broke out down my spine. How could he know so much? In our past life, he was utterly clueless about medicinal herbs. There's a hidden valley in the back mountains, I fabricated casually while studying his expression closely. Grandmother took me there once. An inscrutable emotion flickered through Ethan's eyes as the corners of his mouth lifted slightly. Is that so? Perhaps the yin lady could show me the way sometime. I've developed quite an interest in rare botanicals. Sure thing, I pretended to agree while hastily packing up. But I've got to head home now. Family matters to attend to. He pressed down on my bamboo basket. Didn't you promise to sell everything to me? Pulling 1,000 yuan bills from his wallet, he added, 1,000. Will this cover it? My eyes widened. These herbs were worth 300 at most in the market. What was he? That's too much. I pulled back 2 bills and handed them to him. 800 is plenty. Ethan suddenly grabbed my wrist, his fingers landing right on the bear-shaped hair tie. We both froze. A flicker of shock crossed his eyes before he calmly said, Your hair tie? It's unusual. I jerked my hand away, my heart pounding like a drum. He felt it. He must have sensed the spring's mystical power. My grandmother left me these. I hastily wrapped the remaining herbs and shoved them at him. Payment settled. I'm off. I'd barely taken 3 steps when a familiar voice called from behind. Commander Ethan. What a coincidence. I didn't need to turn around to know it was Eris. She deliberately wore a fitted red top today, with her hair impeccably styled, clearly having put considerable effort into her appearance. Miss Freya. Ethan's voice was polite yet distant. I quickened my pace to leave, but could still hear Eris's affected laughter. So Commander Ethan fancies herbs. My foolish little sister dares to sell random weeds she picked. Rounding the street corner, I finally exhaled in relief. Ethan's odd behavior unsettled me. The way he looked at me felt eerily familiar, as if we'd met before. Back home, I stashed the money I'd earned in a hidden compartment beneath my bed. This sum would tide me over in emergencies, but it was nowhere near enough to escape the Liu family's forced marriage. At lunch, Father tapped his bowl and declared, The Lius are delivering the betrothal gifts tomorrow. The 8th of next month is auspicious. We'll hold the wedding then. My chopstick slipped, sending a piece of tofu tumbling onto the table. Dad, shut up, Father glared. The betrothal gifts are already accepted. You have no say in this. Eris snickered from the sidelines, feigning concern as she said, Freya, all women must marry eventually. The Liu family's offer is quite decent, don't be ungrateful. I clenched my fists, nails digging deep into my palms. Suddenly, an idea flashed through my mind. Madame Belle's place. I'd save their child. Maybe. Dad, Mom, I'm going to Madame Belle's, I said, putting down my chopsticks and standing up. She mentioned yesterday she wanted to thank me with some gifts. At the word gifts, Father's expression softened slightly. Go ahead, but don't be long. Madame Belle's 2-story house was the most impressive building in the village. After I knocked and stated my purpose, Madame Belle warmly welcomed me inside. Freya, my little one has fully recovered. You're truly our family's savior. She took my hand and sat me down, then ordered the maid to bring some fruit. Madame Belle, I have an awkward request. I hesitated before continuing. My family accepted the betrothal gifts from the Liu family's simpleton son, and they're forcing me to marry him next month. Madame Belle's face darkened. What? That violent idiot from the Liu family, have your parents lost their minds? I lowered my head, pretending to wipe tears. I wanted to work in town to repay the bride price, but my parents wouldn't allow it. Outrageous. Madame Belle slammed the table. Listen, I'll talk to your father. You'll work as our family physician with 3,000 monthly. As for the Lius, I'll have Uncle Maverick handle them. Secretly thrilled, I feigned greater distress, but father's already taken their money. How much? 80,000, right. Madame Belle waved her hand grandly. Our Belle family will advance the money. Such fine medical skills shouldn't be wasted on the Lius. When I left Madame Belle's residence, my steps felt lighter with the 5,000 yuan deposit tucked in my pocket. With the Belle family backing me, I could at least buy some time. As night fell, I tossed and turned in bed. Ethan's odd behavior, Eris's deliberate advances, and that suspiciously convenient folklore research, it's all putting me on edge. Stepping into the spirit spring, I cupped my hands to drink the cool water, its clarity washing through me like a revelation. Suddenly, ripples disturbed the water's surface, gradually revealing hazy images. Eris was sneaking into my room, rummaging through my belongings. The scene shifts, she's conspiring with a hunched figure in the woods. The figure turns. It's Zane, the village's notorious old bachelor. I gasp as the perspective suddenly shifts to first person. Trapped in a dim alley, Zane advances with a sinister grin, muttering about forcing the issue. The water surface stills, trembling uncontrollably. I withdraw from the space. Is this precognition? My own sister would stoop so low to harm me. Moonlight streamed through the window like water as I fingered the bear-shaped hair tie on my wrist, my resolve crystallizing. Since my sister has made the first move, I see no reason to hold back anymore. The next morning, I casually mentioned to Mother, Mom, I dreamed of Grandma last night. She said this hair tie on my wrist is a family heirloom and I must keep it safe. Nonsense. Mother frowned. That's just some $2 trinket from a street stall. Eris was brushing her hair when her hand trembled at the words. Dropping the comb to the floor, she stared fixedly at my hair ribbon, her eyes glinting with greed and suspicion. Sis, how's your jade pendant coming along? I asked pointedly. Grandma said in my dream that family heirlooms need sincere devotion to awaken their power. Eris turned pale as the jade pendant slipped from her fingers with a clatter onto the table. She hastily picked it up to inspect, only to discover a hairline crack on its surface. She pointed at me with trembling fingers. What do you know? I blinked innocently. I was just recounting Grandma's dream. Why are you so worked up, sis? Our parents watched our sisterly squabble with puzzled expressions, utterly bewildered. Seizing the moment, I stood up. Madame Belle asked me to examine her mother-in-law's rheumatism today. Don't wait lunch for me. Stepping past the courtyard gate, I exhaled deeply. This is only the beginning, Eris. We'll settle that score from our past life when you push me down the stairs. The alley in the vision was at the village's eastern end, the only path to the ancient well. Flanked by abandoned adobe houses that rarely saw visitors, I stood at the alley's entrance, surveying what would become the starting point of my nightmares. The afternoon sun bathed the alley in bright light, a stark contrast to the eerie darkness from my prophetic dream. Better prepare in advance, I murmured to myself. Turning toward the back mountain, the sacred spring codex records a peculiar herb, the bee-summoning grass. When burned, its smoke attracts wild bees within a mile radius, yet remains harmless to humans. I'd cultivated 3 specimens in my dimensional space, perfect timing to put them to use. After gathering herbs, I made a detour to old Bachelor Zane's rundown yard. Peering through the fence, I saw him sharpening a machete while humming a lewd tune. Fighting back disgust, I quietly sprinkled a special powder on his drying coat, pollen-soaked in enchanted spring water that drives bees wild. With that done, I headed to Lady Belle's place. Madame Belle was hanging laundry in the courtyard when she spotted me and waved enthusiastically. Perfect timing. Freya, I just made some white fungus soup. Madame Belle, I need your help, I whispered. Could you and Uncle Maverick pretend to pass by the old alley east of the village after sunset tonight? I'm afraid someone means to harm me. Madame Belle's face darkened instantly. Who dares? Hard to say for now. I feigned hesitation. Maybe Zane from the village. He's been eyeing me a lot lately, that old creep. Madame Belle's chest heaved with rage. Don't worry, Uncle Maverick and I will definitely go. We'll bring some neighbors too. Let's see who dares lay a finger on you. After leaving Madame Belle's place, I visited a few other neighbor households we got along with, planting the same seeds of suspicion. Finally, I tucked some fireweed into the cracks of the old alley walls, making sure they'd dry out before sunset for easy ignition. All is set. Just waiting for the fish to bite. At dinner, Eris was unusually attentive, constantly serving me dishes. Freya, eat more. You've lost weight recently. I smiled with faint gratitude while discreetly nudging the knife hidden in my boot under the table. Tonight, I'll make sure my sister pays the first installment for her sins from the past life. Freya, come fetch water from the old well with me tonight, Eris suggested casually. They say the water's sweetest this evening. I looked up to see venom glinting in her eyes, though her lips curled in saccharine sweetness. In my past life, I'd been too trusting. That's how I ended up taking that fatal fall. Sure, I agreed brightly, watching triumphant glee flash across her scheming eyes. As night fell, I slipped out early under the pretense of using the bathroom and made a beeline for the old alley. The moonlight, pale as water, washed over the earthen walls. I quickly lit the prearranged bee-attracting herbs before ducking into the shadows behind a broken wall. Wisps of smoke curled upward, carrying a faint sweetness. Within minutes, a distant buzzing grew louder and closer, covering my nose. I watched the dark swarm follow the smoke trail, circling above the alley. Freya, where are you? Eris's voice carried fake concern from the alley entrance, holding my breath. I saw her peer cautiously into the alley with Zane slinking behind. Moonlight glistened on Zane's wrinkled, greasy face as his eyes kept darting toward Eris's backside. Didn't you promise to lure her here? Zane hissed, his hand already creeping onto Eris's shoulder. Eris swatted his hand away in disgust. What's the rush? That little bitch must be nearby. She raised her voice. Freya, quit hiding. I see you. Just then, the swarm detected the pollen clinging to Zane and descended upon him like a black whirlwind. Ah, what the hell is that? Zane shrieked, frantically slapping at his face and head. Eris spun around in shock, but before she could react, several wasps came buzzing toward her. Get off. Ah, my face, Eris screamed, wildly flailing her arms as her carefully styled bun came undone, making her look like a madwoman. Seizing the moment, I burst from my hiding spot, feigning panic. Sis, uncle. What's happening to you? Zane's face was covered in swollen red welts, puffed up like a pig's head, with his clothes torn to shreds. Eris fared slightly better, but several angry bumps had risen on her forehead and neck, her carefully applied makeup now a smeared mess. Help! A swarm of bees. Eris' eyes flickered with guilt when she spotted me, quickly overtaken by sheer panic. I feigned terror and backed away. I'll go get help. With that, I turned and ran, only to coincidentally bump into Madame Belle and her entourage who had come at the commotion. What's wrong? What happened? Madame Belle asked, holding a kerosene lamp with 5 or 6 villagers trailing behind her. Madame Belle, help my sister and uncle. They're being attacked by bees. I cried in panic, pointing frantically down the alley. The villagers rushed into the alley with torches, only to freeze in shock at the sight. Zane rolling on the ground with his clothes in disarray, while Eris flailed wildly at imaginary bees, cursing nonstop. Well, if it isn't Freya and old Zhang. Uncle Maverick raised an eyebrow suggestively. What are a lone man and woman doing in this dark alley at night? Eris turned pale. I was just looking for my sister. Looking for me? I blinked innocently. But sis, didn't you say you were fetching water from the old well? How'd you end up here, with Uncle? The villagers exchanged knowing glances. Zane tried to defend himself, but spat out bloody froth instead. A bee had stung his tongue. Save him first, Lady Belle commanded, suppressing a laugh. Old Zhang needs immediate attention. Bee venom is no joke. On the way back to the village, Eris limped behind me, her eyes burning with enough hatred to tear me apart. As we passed through a shadowy spot, she suddenly grabbed my wrist, her nails digging deep into my flesh. It was you, she hissed through clenched teeth. You knew we'd be there. I gently pulled my hand away, looking bewildered. Sis, what are you talking about? Didn't you tell me to fetch water from the old well? I was wondering why you ended up in that alley with Uncle Zane. Shut up, she snapped sharply, making the villagers ahead turn their heads. For, Madame Belle quickly stepped between us. Eris, why are you yelling at Freya? If she hadn't called us tonight, who knows what would have happened to you and Zane? Eris opened her mouth, then shut it under the villagers' scornful gazes, though the venom in her eyes remained undiminished. When she got home, her parents were shocked by Eris's disheveled appearance. After hearing what happened, her father turned livid. A proper young lady like you, sneaking around with Zane at night. Have you no shame, Dad? I was framed, Eris sobbed, pointing at me. She set me up. Mother frowned. How did Freya set you up? Didn't you volunteer to fetch water yourself? I squeezed out 2 timely tears. Sis, I know you don't like me, but you can't falsely accuse me like this. That night, Eris was punished by kneeling before the ancestral tablets in reflection, while I lay in bed, stroking the bear-shaped hair tie on my wrist, feeling a dark thrill of vengeance. This is just the beginning, sister. By dawn the next day, the whole village was buzzing about Eris and Zane's scandalous affair. When I went to fetch water at the well, some village wives deliberately raised their voices. Heard Eris and old Zhang got caught in the alley last night. TSK, acting all prim and proper when she's into this sort of thing. Heard they got swarmed by bees too. Must have done something truly wicked to deserve that karma. I hurried past with my head down, but the satisfaction I'd imagined never came. My sister got me killed in my past life. This revenge was justified. So why do I feel so hollow, Freya? A deep male voice came from behind. I turned to see Ethan standing in the morning light, His military uniform crisp and his gaze piercing. Commander Ethan, I forced a smile. Conducting research this early, he stepped closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. I heard about last night. My heart clenched as I tightened my grip on the bucket handle. You're unharmed. That's what matters, he said abruptly, his eyes flickering with unreadable emotions. Those with wicked intentions will reap what they sow. I looked up in surprise, just catching a fleeting tenderness in his gaze. For a heartbeat, I nearly blurted out whether he'd also been reborn, but reason prevailed. Thanks for your concern, I murmured softly, turning to leave when he suddenly handed me a small cloth bundle. This is for you. Seeing my hesitation, he added, it's some topical medicine. Heard your sister got stung last night. As I took the bundle, our fingertips brushed. The bear-shaped hair tie on my wrist suddenly burned so intensely I nearly cried out. Ethan seemed to sense it too. Jerking his hand back with a flicker of shock in his eyes, I've got things to do, gotta run. He hurried off, walking faster than usual. Back home, I unwrapped the cloth bundle to find several packets of military-grade ointment and a neatly folded note. Unfolding it, I saw just one line, beware the jade pendant. There's something odd about it. My heart skipped a beat. Ethan knows about the jade pendant, and he came to warn me himself. Does that mean, lost in thought? Eris suddenly burst through the door, her eyes swollen from what was clearly a night of crying. Her gaze immediately fell upon the ointment and note on the table. What is this? She snatched the note, her face paling as she read it. Why would Commander Ethan write this to you? What's your relationship? Calmly retrieving the note, I said. He's just concerned about your sting injury. Bullshit, she shrieked. That's clearly a warning. About the jade pendant. Suddenly grabbing my wrist, she glared at the bare hair tie. Did you tell him something? What's the damn secret with this hair accessory? Sis, you're hurting me. I tried to pull away, but her grip only tightened. Eris, have you lost your mind? Mother rushed over upon hearing the commotion and snapped sharply. Eris released her grip, pointing at me while sobbing. Mom, Freya's been seducing Commander Ethan. And she's spreading rumors about me and Zane having an affair. She's nothing but trouble. Mother eyed his sister suspiciously before sighing. Freya, your sister's reputation is already tarnished, and this household is in turmoil. Perhaps you should stay at the old cottage by the village entrance for a few days. Return when things settle down. My heart sank, yet I knew this was Eris's retaliation, but looking at it another way. Moving out might actually make it easier for me to access the spirit spring space. All right, I replied calmly, turning to pack my modest belongings. Eris stood smugly to the side, whispering, don't think you've won. I know there's something off about you. I'll uncover your secret sooner or later. I paused and met her gaze directly. Sis, Grandma came to me in a dream. Remember, grasp all, lose all. Some things just aren't meant to be forced. Her face suddenly paled as the jade pendant she always clutched slipped from her grasp, hitting the floor with a sharp crack that left another fissure in its surface. Lugging my baggage out the door, I turned for one last look at the old house that had been my home for 20 years. This time, I won't be anyone's doormat. Though dilapidated, the old house at the village entrance marked the beginning of my new life. The bare hair tie on my wrist felt warm, as if cheering me on. Taking a deep breath, I strode toward the new battlefield. The old house at the village entrance was more dilapidated than I'd imagined. The thatched roof was patchy, with cobwebs draping from the corners like sheer curtains. The first thing I did after putting down my luggage was to check if the doors and windows were secure. At least it's better than being stuck in a room with Eris, I muttered to myself while sweeping the dust off the floor. After tidying up, I locked the door and couldn't wait to enter the spirit spring realm. After 3 days away, the herbs in the black soil had grown taller, but the spirit spring's water level had dropped slightly since my last visit. Kneeling by the spring, I noticed dark circles under my eyes reflected in the water's surface. Has my precognition drained the spring's energy? I whispered, as ripples formed like a response. The sacred spring tome flipped to a new page, revealing words. To foresee fate defies heaven's will, spiritual energy must replenish the cost. I frowned, pondering the meaning behind these words. It seems precognition isn't limitless. Each activation drains energy from the spiritual spring. That explains why I've been feeling completely drained lately. I need to replenish my spiritual energy, I murmured, my gaze settling on a small vacant patch at the edge of the black soil. Ancient texts mention that cultivating rare plants and harvesting them can replenish the spiritual spring. In the following days, I spent my mornings running errands around town while dedicating my evenings to studying the Spirit Spring Manual. Through Madame Bell's connections, I secured a small stall at the county herb market specializing in rare medicinal plants cultivated from the Spirit Spring. The earnings far exceeded expectations. I'd nearly saved 10,000 yuan within 2 weeks. One evening, I was tending to a new batch of moonlight orchids within the cultivation space. This orchid species only exists in ancient manuscripts, having long gone extinct in reality. Its semi-transparent petals emit a subtle fragrance under moonlight, making them perfect for crafting premium perfumes. Freya, are you home? Came Madame Bell's voice from outside the courtyard. I hastily withdrew from the space, brushed the dirt off my clothes, and went to open the door. Behind Madame Belle stood a middle-aged man in a tailored suit, clearly a city dweller. "This is Manager Ma from the county's perfume factory," Madame Belle introduced. "He insisted on meeting you after seeing the sachet you gave me." Manager Ma extended his hand enthusiastically. "Miss Freya, the spices in your sachet are extraordinary. Our factory would pay handsomely for the recipe." My heart skipped a beat. But I feigned hesitation. "It's a family secret. Grandmother made me promise never to share it before she passed." Got it, Manager Ma said eagerly. "Could you arrange regular spice deliveries? We're flexible on pricing." And so I signed my first commercial contract, agreeing to supply 2 of heirloom secret recipe spices monthly, with an upfront payment of 5,000 yuan. After seeing off Manager Ma, Madame Belle winked at me. "Freya, you're about to strike it rich." I slipped a red envelope to Madame Belle. "All thanks to your introduction." Madame Belle reluctantly accepted the red envelope before whispering, "By the way, your sister's been hanging around that officer Ethan lately. The whole village is talking." My fingers twitched momentarily before I calmly replied, "Her affairs don't concern me. You'd better watch out." Madame Belle sighed. "Yesterday at the village committee, I overheard her telling the chief you'd been possessed by evil spirits." "That's how you suddenly knew medicine." After seeing Madame Belle out, I stood dazed in the courtyard. Eris just won't give up. She's determined to ruin my reputation completely. The night breeze carried a hint of chill. I fiddled with the bear-shaped hair tie on my wrist, pondering my next move. Early the next morning, I deliberately went to fetch water when the well was busiest with villagers. The village wives were gossiping about Eris and Ethan's scandal when they saw me approaching and immediately swarmed around. "Freya, I heard you can ward off evil spirits. My little bow keeps crying at night. Miss Freya, this back pain of mine." I smiled and responded, seizing the moment to announce loudly, "Aunties, these skills of mine were taught by Grandma in a dream. She said our village will face flash floods this year and told me to warn everyone to prepare." The crowd fell silent instantly when an old man scoffed, "What nonsense is this little girl spouting? There's no flood coming in this dry season." Without arguing, I simply said mysteriously, "Grandma said if we see dark clouds covering the western mountains like a lid at sunset 3 days from now, that'll be the sign." 5. On the evening of the third day, just as I'd predicted, an unusually dark cloud gathered over the western peak, shaped like an upside-down cauldron. The villagers grew restless and came running to ask me for details. Granny said the families in the low-lying area need to evacuate temporarily. I pointed toward the west end of the village, especially Uncle Leo, Aunt Wang, and Old Zhao's households. They're in the most danger. Most villagers were skeptical, but the 3 families I'd named, having witnessed my uncanny accuracy before, reluctantly packed their valuables and moved in with relatives. At midnight, torrential rains triggered a devastating flash flood. The floodwaters demolished 5 houses at the village's west end, including the homes of Uncle Leo's family and the other 2 households. Thanks to the early evacuation, there were no casualties. At daybreak, I was awakened by the clamor of villagers. When I opened the door, the courtyard was surrounded by a crowd, with several elders at the forefront kneeling at the sight of me. "Freya is truly a living goddess. Thank God you warned us, or my whole family would have been gone. From now on, we'll believe whatever you say." I quickly helped the elderly up, yet felt no joy in my heart. Using precognition to save lives is noble, but each time drains the spirit spring noticeably. When I checked this morning, the spring had already dwindled to half its volume. Behind the crowd, I caught a glimpse of Eris' contorted face and Ethan's pensive expression. Eris glared at me with gritted teeth, while Ethan, his gaze was too complex for me to decipher. After the villagers dispersed, Ethan remained. "Freya, may I have a word?" His uniform was impeccably pressed, his tone formal, yet his eyes held that familiar warmth I knew so well. I ushered him inside and poured a cup of coarse tea. As he took the teacup, his fingers brushed against mine, intentionally or not, sending an electric jolt that nearly made me drop it. "Your grandmother's dream was remarkably accurate." He cut straight to the chase, eyes glinting with intrigue, "almost too accurate to be just a dream." My heart raced as I forced composure. "You don't believe in these things, do you?" "Commander Ethan, I believe in facts." He set down the teacup, voice dropping to a whisper, like the fact of reincarnation. My teacup clattered to the floor, scalding water soaking through my trouser leg. Could it be? Was he really what I suspected? Ethan bent to pick up the teacup, whispering in my ear, "Don't worry, I'm just like you. I remember everything from our past life." My whole body trembled. Whether from fear or excitement, I couldn't tell, just like in our past life. Ethan always leaned close when speaking, his warm breath brushing against my neck. "Prove it to me," I demanded, steadying my voice as I met his gaze. Ethan reached into his military jacket and pulled out a small notebook, flipping to a page before handing it to me. A single line was written there: "Pearl Hotel rooftop, moonlight, and promises." My eyes instantly welled up with tears. That was where he'd proposed to me in our past life. Whispering, By the moonlight I vow, in this life and the next, you're the only one, Freya. He reached out to wipe my tears, but suddenly recoiled just before touching my cheek, his expression shifting abruptly. Someone's coming. The courtyard gate burst open violently as Eris's shrill voice pierced through. Commander Ethan, so this is where you've been. The village needs you for a meeting. Ethan instantly snapped back into military bearing. Striding out of the house, Comrade Eris, lead the way. Eris eyed the two of us suspiciously when suddenly, her jade pendant emitted a faint green glow, just a fleeting flicker, but unmistakable. We all saw it. Ethan's expression darkened slightly as he hurried away. Eris stared at the jade pendant like she'd struck gold, her gaze darting between the artifact and Ethan's retreating figure, eyes blazing with manic intensity. So that's how it is, she muttered under her breath before shooting me a venomous glare. Commander Ethan is mine. Don't you dare try to take him. I closed the door and slid down against it, my back pressed against the wooden panel as I slowly sank to the floor. The revelations today were overwhelming. Ethan is also a reincarnator, and Eris's jade pendant reacted to him. The bare hair tie on my wrist suddenly burned hot. When I entered the dimensional space to check, my heart sank. The spirit spring's water level had dropped again. And this time, a patch of grayish-white area appeared at the edge of the black soil, as if contaminated by something. The ancient tome flipped open on its own, revealing a warning. The cursed jade awakens, the spirit spring falters, twin forces clash. Proceed with utmost caution. The cursed jade. Does it mean Eris's pendant? I reached to touch the text, but it dissolved, replaced by a hazy vision, Ethan lying bloodied in some dark void. A dagger buried in his chest. I jerked out of the vision, my back drenched in cold sweat. Was that a glimpse of the future? Is Ethan in danger? As I stood there unsettled, the courtyard gate rattled again. It was Lady Belle, her face deathly pale. Freya, hurry. Commander Ethan's comrade got injured during mountain drills. He's bleeding badly and the town clinic's too far. Without a second thought, I grabbed the medical kit and followed Lady Belle. A group of soldiers gathered on the hillside, surrounding a young soldier lying in their midst with a broken branch impaled in his thigh, blood soaking half his trouser leg. Ethan was directing first aid when he spotted me, his eyes flashing with relief. Freya knows medicine. Let her take a look. Examining the wound, I saw the branch had pierced an artery. Ordinary treatment wouldn't stop the bleeding. I pretended to fetch medicine from the kit while secretly applying a drop of magical spring water to the wound. We need immediate surgery to remove the branch, I said to Ethan, looking up, but for now, my special remedy can stop the bleeding. The spring water worked instantly, and the bleeding stopped almost immediately. The medics were astonished, while Ethan gave me a knowing look, as if to say, I know what you used. After the soldier was carried away on a stretcher, Ethan deliberately lingered behind and slipped me a note when no one was looking. Midnight tonight, our usual spot. I clutched the note, my heart pounding like a drum. Our usual spot, the little riverside where we used to meet in our past life. He remembered too, back in my room. Just as I was about to rest and prepare for the rendezvous, the space suddenly pulled me in of its own accord. The spirit spring churned violently as a new vision emerged on its surface. Eris sneaked into Ethan's temporary dorm and poured some mysterious powder into his water bottle. The scene shifted abruptly. Ethan collapsed unconscious after drinking the water while Eris pressed a jade pendant against his forehead, the artifact emitting an eerie green glow. A chill ran down my spine as I withdrew from the spiritual space. Tonight's rendezvous is a trap. I must warn Ethan. As midnight approached, I crept toward the creek with my dagger and spirit spring antidote in hand. Moonlight cascaded like water, painting the path in silvery white. In the distance, a tall figure stood waiting beneath the riverside willow. I quickened my pace, only to see another figure dart from behind the tree when I was mere meters away. Eris. She was holding something glinting in her hand, creeping up behind Ethan, who had his back turned. Ethan, behind you, I screamed at the top of my lungs, charging forward recklessly. Ethan, watch your back. My shriek tore through the night air. With lightning reflexes, Ethan sidestepped to evade Eris' ambush. Moonlight glinted coldly off the scissors in her hand. Eris, what the hell are you doing? Ethan barked, his military authority flashing through. When her ambush failed, Eris abruptly knelt, raising the jade pendant above her head with both hands. Commander Ethan, please touch this pendant. It needs your power. I rushed to Ethan's side, keeping a wary eye on Eris. Her eyes burned with unnatural fervor, lips twisted in a disturbing grin. Have you lost your mind? I tried pulling her up. Attacking people with scissors at midnight, you trying to get arrested? Eris shook off my hand, gaze locked on Ethan. Commander Ethan, this jade pendant's a treasure, but it only responds to you. Please, just touch it. Ethan frowned at me, his eyes full of questions. I gave an almost imperceptible shake of my head, though I couldn't figure out what Eris was scheming. It was definitely nothing good. Comrade Eris, please calm down. Ethan took a step back, maintaining a safe distance. Let's discuss this at the village committee tomorrow. For now, please go home. Eris's face contorted with rage as she sprang up, scissors pointed at my throat. It's all your fault. You stole my chance, last life, and now this one. Ethan lunged forward, effortlessly disarmed her and twisted her arms behind her back. What did you just say? Last life. Eris paled as she realized her slip of the tongue. She struggled violently. Let me go. I never said anything about past lives. You misheard. I picked up the jade pendant from the floor, its icy chill pierced through my palm like clutching a block of glacial ice. Stranger still, faint emerald light seeped through the cracked spiderwebbing across its surface. This pendant's cursed. I handed it to Ethan. Look at these fissures. 6. The moment Ethan touched it, the pendant convulsed violently with an ear-splitting shriek, its cracks blazing with malevolent green radiance. Seizing the opportunity, Eris broke free, snatched back the jade pendant, and fled into the night, vanishing swiftly into the darkness. Ethan and I stared at each other in stunned silence. Did she also get reborn? Ethan whispered, his eyes wide with shock. I nodded weakly, then suddenly felt dizzy and nearly lost my balance. Ethan quickly steadied me. What's wrong? It's nothing. Probably just shock. I forced a smile, avoiding mention of the spiritual springs anomaly. The priority now was figuring out Ethan's identity. Do you really remember your past life? Ethan guided me to sit by the riverside. Moonlight traced a silver outline along his sharply defined profile. He gently took my hand, his palm warm and dry. I remember everything, he said in a low voice. Our first meeting at the county hospital, how you healed my leg wound, the day I proposed to you. His fingers brushed against the bear-shaped hair tie on my wrist. And I remember this too. In our past life, it was a jade pendant, wasn't it? My eyes burned as tears spilled uncontrollably. So many lonely nights I'd spent wishing he could be reborn with me. My dream has come true, yet I'm at a loss for words. Ethan gently wiped away my tears. I've been searching for you since my rebirth. I requested this village survey because I remembered you mentioning your hometown was here. But in our past life, we met 3 years later, I said, puzzled. The timeline has shifted. Ethan said gravely, after being reborn. I notice many things differ from our previous life. Strangest of all, my military rank is 2 levels higher than it was at this point before, as if someone paved the way for me in advance. Are we not the only ones who've been reborn? Who else is altering fate behind the scenes? Ethan, Eris's jade pendant. This is seriously creepy. Ethan frowned deeply. The moment I touched it, these bizarre images flashed through my mind. An ancient tomb and a blood-red book. A shiver ran down my spine. This description bears an uncanny resemblance to the cursed jade warned about in the Sacred Spring Codex. Ethan suddenly pulled me into a crushing embrace, his grip so tight I could barely breathe. Freya, in this lifetime, I won't let anyone hurt you, especially not your sister. Pressed against his solid chest, listening to his steady heartbeat, all our troubles suddenly seemed insignificant. As long as we have each other, we can face any danger. Here, this is for you. Ethan took off his dog tags from around his neck and placed them around mine. There's a tracking chip inside. If you're ever in danger, I can find you immediately. The metal tags still carried his warmth as I carefully tucked them under my collar, pressing them against my chest. My steps felt lighter on the way back to the old house, though Eris still posed a threat. I wasn't fighting alone anymore. Ethan and I are one. In the days that followed, the village underwent earth-shaking changes. News of my accurate flood prophecy spread far and wide, drawing visitors from neighboring villages seeking medical advice and divination daily. I cautiously wielded my spiritual spring abilities while organizing villagers to cultivate high-value medicinal herbs. Freya, the county agricultural bureau sent people over. They want to promote your farming techniques. Belle rushed in excitedly to tell me one noon. At the village committee office, I met with the expert team from the County Agricultural Bureau. They couldn't stop praising the cultivation methods I'd invented, and immediately designated our village as a demonstration site. Comrade Freya, we'd like you to lead the cooperative, the Bureau Director said, shaking my hand. The county will provide seed funding and technical support. I was speechless with shock. At this time in my past life, I was just a pitiful outcast shunned by my family. Now I'm about to lead the whole village to prosperity. I object. A shrill voice suddenly rang out. Eris stood at the doorway, her face dark with anger. Her so-called techniques are complete fraud. Those aren't any ancestral secret recipes. The meeting room fell silent instantly. All eyes were on me, waiting for my response. I stood up calmly and said, Sis, you claim my techniques are fraudulent. Then why do my herbs outshine others in quality? Why do they command premium prices? Because you're using dark magic, Eris shrieked hysterically. Grandma told me before she died. You're possessed by evil spirits. The villagers stirred uneasily, some wearing expressions of terror. I was about to retort when a composed male voice came from behind. I can attest that Comrade Freya's techniques are entirely scientific. Ethan strode into the conference room, his military uniform impeccably pressed, radiating authority. An elderly man with silver hair followed closely behind him. "This is Professor Samuel from the Provincial Academy of Agricultural Sciences, specializing in traditional farming techniques," Ethan introduced. He analyzed Freya's cultivation methods and found them to be an innovative blend of ancient wisdom and modern science. Professor Samuel nodded with a smile. "Comrade Freya has revived many nearly lost ancient cultivation techniques, truly remarkable." The tide turned in an instant, the villagers cheered, and even the bureau chief looked at me with newfound respect. Eris stood in the corner, face ashen, the jade pendant in her hand now bearing another hairline crack. After the meeting, Ethan whispered to me, "I invited Professor Samuel. Remembered he was your idol before the rebirth." So, my heart swelled with warmth. He even remembered such minute details, but the good times didn't last. That night when I entered the spirit spring realm, the sight before me made my heart sink. The spring's water level had dropped by nearly a third again, the ashen edges of the black soil had expanded, creeping ominously toward the center. Even more terrifying, I began experiencing unexplained exhaustion and dizziness. When I looked in the mirror, my face was ghostly pale with dark, bruise-like shadows under my eyes. What's happening? I scoured the Spirit Spring Codex until I found tiny script in the margin. Spiritual energy siphoned, core damaged, if not stopped, host perishes. I gasped in shock. Someone's stealing energy from my Spirit Spring, connecting Eris's airy jade pendant with her strange behavior. The answer became glaringly obvious. The next morning, I dragged my weakened body to find Ethan, only to be struck by excruciating pain halfway there. My vision darkened as I clutched a roadside tree. When suddenly I saw a vision, Eris kneeling in her backyard, slicing her palm to drip blood onto the jade pendant. The pendant greedily absorbed the blood, its cracks pulsing with increasingly intense emerald light. As the vision faded, I was drenched in cold sweat. This was an automatic warning triggered by my precognition. Eris is activating the jade pendant with blood sacrifice. It's draining my spiritual spring energy. I must stop her, or I'll be drained of spiritual power before she even strikes. But how to stop her? Direct confrontation is too risky, especially now that she's wielding that eerie power. Just as I was pondering, my phone rang, a text from Ethan. "Emergency mission away for 3 days. Keep your dog tags on. Be careful with the jade pendant." Clutching the phone, I felt both disappointment and relief. Heartbroken he couldn't be by my side in crisis, yet relieved he's spared from confronting this supernatural peril. Returning to the old house, I mustered my strength to enter the Spirit Spring realm, seeking ways to counter the jade pendant's power. The realm's condition had deteriorated further, the spring nearly dried up, 2/3 of the black soil turned ashen, even the ancient tome's glow had dimmed significantly. Kneeling in despair by the spring, I suddenly noticed the tome had turned to a completely new page. The drawing depicts 2 interlinked circles, one vibrant emerald, the other ashen and parched. A slender crimson thread connects the 2 spheres. Beneath the image reads a faint inscription, "Twin realms, light and dark, sever the tether." Evil falters. Suddenly, it all made sense. So Eris' jade pendant also contains a realm, a twin dimension to my spirit spring space. She's using blood rituals to awaken the cursed jade's power, siphoning my spiritual energy. I must sever the connection between these 2 realms. But how? The ancient texts offer no solution. After exiting the void, I collapsed onto the bed, too weak to even lift a finger. The sunlight outside looked warm, yet I shivered with bone-deep chill. Is this what happens when psychic energy gets drained? Through the haze of exhaustion, I heard the courtyard gate creak open. Forcing my eyelids open, I saw Eris standing by the bed wearing a triumphant smile. "Sister, how did you get so sick?" she asked with faint concern, twirling that jade pendant glowing emerald in her fingers. "Shall I call a doctor for you?" I tried to scream, but no sound came out, tried to move, but felt bound by invisible ropes. I could only watch helplessly as she leaned down and whispered in my ear, "Don't worry, the pain will be over soon. After you die, your precious treasure and Commander Ethan will be mine." I tried to resist, but couldn't move a single finger. My eyelids felt like lead weights, forced to close slowly. The last thing I saw was Eris' triumphant, twisted grin and the jade pendant glowing violently green in her hand. Just before consciousness faded into darkness, the bear-shaped hair tie on my wrist suddenly burned scalding hot, nearly searing my skin. A surge of warmth flowed from the hair tie through my body, momentarily dispelling some of the chilling cold. My eyes flew open as I gasped for air. Eris was gone, leaving me alone in the house. The sky outside had darkened. I'd been unconscious for an entire day, struggling to my feet. I immediately checked my spirit spring dimension. The sight made my heart clench. The spring had nearly dried up, the fertile black soil turned ashen, and the ancient tome lay on the ground, its glow flickering like a dying candle in the wind. The most terrifying sight was a fissure forming at the edge of space. Through the crack, I glimpsed another shadowy dimension where a jade pendant pulsed with eerie green light. It was unmistakably Eris's lost amulet. "Is this the twin realm?" I murmured, reaching instinctively toward the rift. "Halt!" The ancient tome suddenly flipped its pages, revealing blazing warnings. Cursed Jade Dimension. Contact means instant death. I jerked my hand back as the grimoire continued. True Jade rests in the tomb. This is but a counterfeit. Twin realms entwined. Destroy the true. Sever the bond. My eyes widened. The real Jade is in the tomb. Grandma's tomb. Then what Eris is holding must be. My thoughts were interrupted by commotion outside the courtyard, dragging my weakened body to the window. I saw villagers running through the village with torches, someone shouting, "Another cow's dead, drained completely of blood. It's the work of evil spirits. Go find Freya, she knows about these things." I barely managed to straighten my clothes when several villagers surrounded me the moment I opened the door. Their faces were pale with terror as they clamored to describe the horrors in the village. For 3 nights straight, livestock had been dying mysteriously, completely drained of blood. "Their corpses withered like mummies. Take me to see it," I said. A crowd had already gathered in front of Uncle Leo's cowshed at the eastern end of the village. Upon seeing me, the crowd automatically parted to make way. The dead cow lay on the haystack, just as they'd described, its body completely shriveled, its eyes turned into 2 black hollows. Even more bizarre were the 2 tiny puncture marks on the cow's neck, surrounded by grayish-green web-like patterns, an exact match to the cracks on Eris's jade pendant. What could have done this? Uncle Leo asked, his voice trembling. Just as I was about to answer, a wave of intense dizziness hit me, nearly making me collapse. Thankfully, someone caught me. I turned to see Ethan. "Didn't he say he'd be gone for 3 days? Why is he back so soon? Everyone, give Freya some space to rest." Ethan's voice was calm yet commanding, and the villagers immediately complied. He guided me to a secluded spot with his arm around me, his expression grave. "It's worse than we thought, Eris. She activated the jade pendant," I said weakly, "but it's a fake. The real one's still in Grandma's tomb." A flicker of shock crossed Ethan's eyes. "How did you know?" "The Spirit Spring dimension showed me." I briefly explained about the twin realms. "We must stop her from finding the real jade pendant, or else." Before I could finish, a piercing shriek suddenly echoed through the village. Following the sound, we saw Eris standing on her rooftop, the jade pendant in her hand radiating an eerie green glow that illuminated her maniacally contorted face. "Ha, you pathetic insects." Her voice grew unnaturally shrill, as if multiple people were speaking simultaneously. "Grovel before me now, and I might just spare your miserable lives." The villagers trembled in terror, some already dropping to their knees. Eris triumphantly raised the jade pendant, its emerald light shooting skyward in a radiant pillar. The night clouds above turned an eerie green hue, swirling violently across the darkened sky. "She's losing control of that power," Ethan whispered. "I'll stop her. You go to Grandma's grave, keep the real jade pendant safe." "But you," Ethan kissed my forehead. The sudden intimacy caught me off guard. "Trust me, I've got specialized gear." He pulled a small metal case from his uniform's inner pocket. Inside lay a bullet engraved with occult symbols, warding rounds, he explained tersely, "originally meant for border cults." I nodded and turned to run toward the back hill, though my body was weak. Survival instinct drove me to run with desperate speed. 7. The little bear hair tie on my wrist kept radiating faint warmth, sustaining my last ounce of strength. Grandma's grave stood halfway up the back hill, looking particularly desolate under the moonlight. As I approached, my breath caught in my throat. The grave had been dug open, the coffin lid lay cast aside, my grandmother's remains exposed to the moonlight. Trembling, I moved closer and gasped. Her hands were folded over her chest, clutching something beneath them, gently lifting her cold hands. I found a jade pendant identical to the one in my memories, except this one was flawless white, without a single crack. "This is the real one." I carefully picked up the jade pendant. The moment it touched my skin, a warm energy surged through my body, momentarily dispelling the weakness. Just then, footsteps echoed from behind me. I turned to see Eris standing at the tomb's edge, her clothes tattered, eyes glowing green. The cracks on her counterfeit jade pendant now spiderwebbing across its surface as if it might shatter any second. "So it was here after all," she sneered. "Hand over the true jade." Over my dead body, I clutched the jade pendant to my chest. "Look at yourself. See what that dark energy has done to you." Eris glanced down. Faint emerald light pulsed beneath her skin like writhing insects, but she only laughed wildly. "So what? This power makes me stronger than ever." She leaped into the grave and lunged at me. I barely dodged, but my weakened body still got knocked to the ground by her impact. The genuine jade pendant slipped from my grasp and landed beside Grandma's remains. Eris pounced toward the pendant, only to let out a piercing shriek as it suddenly emitted a blinding white light that sent her flying backward. "Impossible," she shrieked, the counterfeit jade pendant in her hand erupting with emerald light. "I am the chosen one." The fake jade pendant shot a beam of green light that struck the genuine artifact. The two forces collided midair, the resulting shockwave sending both me and Eris tumbling to the ground. Struggling to my feet, I saw the 2 pendants suspended in the air, one white, one green, locked in a standoff. Strangely enough, the bear-shaped hair tie on my wrist also began to glow, its light resonating with the white radiance from the genuine jade pendant. Eris noticed it too. Her eyes flashing with manic jealousy. You again, always you. She abruptly changed targets and lunged at me. If you die, the treasure will be mine. At the critical moment, a dark figure leaped down from above the tomb and knocked Eris away. It was Ethan. His face was bloodied and his military uniform torn, but his gaze remained sharp as a blade. Freya, catch. He tossed me a combat knife. Use this to sever the connection. I caught the blade, completely baffled, while dodging the frenzied Eris. Ethan yelled, "Look at the ground." My breath caught when I looked down. Countless crimson threads had spread across the floor like veins from Eris' wrist, some connected to the fake jade pendant, while others, impossibly, linked to the bear-shaped hair tie on my own wrist. This is the physical manifestation of the twin space. Suddenly it dawned on me. I raised my dagger and slashed at those crimson threads. No. Eris shrieked with an inhuman voice as the counterfeit jade pendant erupted in viridian light. Ethan was hurled backward by an invisible force, crashing hard against the tomb wall. The moment the red thread was severed, both jade pendants emitted a blinding light simultaneously. A sharp pain shot through my hair ribbon as if something had been violently torn apart. After the intense flash, the counterfeit jade pendant clattered to the ground, shattering into pieces. Eris collapsed to her knees, frantically clawing at her arms as eerie green lights writhed beneath her skin. The jade pendant gently floated back into my palm, its white glow now much softer. My first instinct was to check on Ethan. He'd already scrambled to his feet, looking disheveled but otherwise unharmed. We need to get back to the village now. Ethan helped me up. The villagers are under some dark influence. They've started attacking each other. Before leaving, I took one last look at Grandma's lifeless body. Strangely, her face looked even more serene than at the burial, with even a faint smile playing on her lips. I gently closed the coffin lid again, promising to return for a proper reburial later. On the way back to the village, the genuine jade pendant kept emitting a warm white glow that dispelled the surrounding malevolent energy. I could feel a trickle of strength returning to my body, but the spirit spring space remained sealed, inaccessible. The village was in complete chaos. Villagers tainted by dark energy wandered like zombies, attacking anyone in sight. Ethan shielded me from several attacks as we retreated toward the old house. The military sending reinforcements, Ethan whispered, but they won't arrive until morning. We just need to hold out tonight. Ethan's military communicator buzzed the moment we stepped into the old house. His face darkened as he took the call. What's wrong? I asked, commands recalling me immediately. He clenched his fists. Priority mission. My heart sank to the depths. At this most perilous moment, the only person who could protect me is about to leave. Ethan saw my fear and grasped my hand. I won't abandon you, but orders are absolute. Go. I choked back tears. I have the jade pendant to protect me. Ethan hesitated for a moment before suddenly removing a necklace from his neck, an ancient copper coin dangling from it. This is my family heirloom, a talisman to ward off evil. Keep it with you. The moment he fastened the necklace around my neck, the communicator buzzed again. This time, the alert was more urgent. With a resigned sigh, Ethan quickly kissed my forehead. Lock all doors and windows. Don't open for anyone. Military reinforcements arrive at dawn. After watching Ethan leave, I secured every entrance and drew the curtains shut. The genuine jade pendant lay on the table, emitting a steady white glow. I attempted to enter the spirit spring dimension again, but failed once more. As I gripped the jade pendant, a sudden message flashed through my mind. When the spirit spring merges with black earth, it yields the supreme antidote, yet the dimension nears collapse. Proceed with utmost caution. A violent shudder ran through my body. This is the way to save the villagers, but at the cost of losing the spirit spring dimension. Without hesitation, I gripped the jade pendant. Tell me how. The pendant flashed white, and the intricate ritual procedure materialized in my mind. Bury the genuine jade pendant together with the hair ribbon in black soil while chanting specific incantations to merge the two energies. The problem is, I can't access the space right now. How am I supposed to bury the items? As if answering my confusion, the bear-shaped hair tie on my wrist suddenly grew warm, then a tiny black hole materialized before me, just large enough to slip a hand through. This is the final chance. Taking a deep breath, I shoved both the genuine jade pendant and the hair ribbon into the black void, chanting the incantation as guided by the voice in my mind, by the sacred spring as guide, upon the dark earth as foundation. I forsake this space to save all living souls. The black void convulsed violently as a blinding white light erupted from its depths. A searing pain tore through me, as if a piece of my very soul had been ripped away. As the light faded, the black hole vanished. The bear-shaped hair tie on my wrist disappeared too, replaced by a small vial of glistening liquid on the table. The legendary antidote, the spirit spring space, was gone forever. A wave of emptiness and loss washed over me, but I quickly steeled myself. Trading space for hundreds of lives is worth it. Outside the window, the villagers' wails grew closer. I tightened my grip on the life-saving potion, bracing for the final darkness before dawn. At the break of dawn, I clutched the antidote and peered through the window crack to survey the scene outside. The villagers still wandered about, but their movements were far slower than last night, like wind-up toys running out of tension. After the jade pendant merged with the hair ribbon, I lost my spiritual spring space, yet a warm current began flowing through my meridians. When I tried channeling this energy to my fingertips, a faint white glow actually appeared. Is this the power of the true jade pendant? I murmured to myself while gently pushing open the door. It was the neighbor's wife who spotted me first, her head turned mechanically, eyes clouded and vacant, lips twisted in an eerie smile. Freya, Madame Eris wants you, Madame Eris. A chill ran down my spine. Since when did Eris start calling herself an immortal? The aunt lunged at me suddenly, her bony fingers clawing at my face like talons. I sidestepped and lightly tapped her forehead in one fluid motion. A flash of white light burst from my fingertip, making her shudder as the haze in her eyes slowly cleared. What happened to me? She looked around dazedly, then gasped in horror at the sight of the other villagers, covering her mouth. Dear heavens, Auntie, go home and lock the door. Don't open it for anyone, I whispered before moving on, with each mind-controlled villager I encountered. I touched their forehead with the white light from my fingertips. Most snapped out of it immediately, but a few with particularly strong dark energy required extra effort. I came to a halt when I reached the village center. Eris, no, the demon now possessed by the cursed jade, stood atop the well platform, gazing down upon the entire village. Her robes had turned an eerie dark green, with faint emerald light pulsing beneath her distorted, inhuman visage. Dozens of villagers knelt below the well, mechanically chanting, "Hail the divine sister Eris! Hail the divine sister Eris, little sister! You finally come." Eris's voice echoed with multiple overlapping tones, as if several people spoke simultaneously. Behold my devoted followers, such piety. I clenched the medicine bottle. Eris, wake up, that jade pendant is consuming your life. She burst into laughter, the sound piercing my eardrums. Life, what does that matter? What I have now is power, limitless power. She raised her hand, palm upturned, as a sphere of green light coalesced. Kneel, worship me like the others do, and I might spare your life. You're insane. I slowly retreated, seeking cover. Where's the real jade pendant? Eris' face twisted with fury. Shut up. It was rightfully mine. Grandma was biased. She only told you the real pendant's location on her deathbed. She leapt from the well platform with inhuman speed. No matter. Once I kill you, the true jade pendant will recognize me as its master. I turned and ran, Eris's shrill laughter chasing after me. After rounding several alleyways, I ducked into an abandoned woodshed and held my breath. Outside, Eris's footsteps halted, playing hide-and-seek. Little sister, her voice wavered between near and far. Remember how you always loved this game as children, but I was the one who found you every time, and this time won't be any different. The woodshed door burst open by an unseen force, revealing Eris framed in the doorway with her eyes blazing emerald green. With a mere gesture, an invisible hand seized my throat and lifted me clean off the ground. Found you, she sneered, tightening her grip with malicious delight. Thrashing desperately, I fumbled the medicine bottle from my pocket and hurled it at her with all my strength. The bottle traced an arc through the air, striking her squarely between the eyes. Ack! Eris shrieked, releasing her grip on me. The potion splashed across her face, sending up plumes of white smoke. She clawed frantically at her face as the emerald glow beneath her skin pulsed violently. I seized the chance to scramble up and run, but within steps found myself surrounded by mind-controlled villagers. They advanced with blank expressions, their eyes flickering with the same eerie green glow as Eris's. Seize her! Eris shrieked from behind. I'll carve out her heart with my own hands. The villagers swarmed forward in unison. I darted through the crowd, taking down a few with the white light from my fingertips, but more kept closing in. Just as I was about to collapse, a dark figure dropped from above and swiftly took out a circle of villagers with precise moves. Ethan, I cried out in joyful surprise. He was clad in full combat gear, face painted with camouflage, his eyes burning with that familiar determination. Freya, follow me. Ethan pulled me through the encirclement and ducked into a hidden alleyway. Behind us, Eris's shriek echoed through the village. Find them, bring them to me. We took shelter in a cellar. After ensuring our safety, Ethan immediately checked my injuries. Are you hurt? I'm fine. I grabbed his hand. Why did you come back? Weren't you on a critical mission? This is the mission site, Ethan whispered. Military sensors detected abnormal magnetic fluctuations. They dispatched our special paranormal unit to investigate. He unclipped a device from his belt, its display showing violent oscillations. These readings, they've reached catastrophic levels. After I briefly explained about Eris and the jade pendant, Ethan's expression darkened. We need to subdue her immediately. If this dark energy spreads to nearby towns, the consequences would be unthinkable. I have a plan, I said. The true pendant's power still flows through me. If I can make physical contact with Eris, I might be able to purify the corruption within her. Ethan shook his head. It's too dangerous. She's completely under the Dark Jade's control. She's not your sister anymore. No, she's still fighting. I recalled Eris' earlier words. She said Grandma only told me the location of the real Jade pendant, but the truth is, I found it in the tomb. Grandma never told anyone. Ethan's eyes lit up. You mean, the Dark Jade is altering her memories? Fueling her hatred for me, I clenched my fist. The real Eris is still in there. I have to save her. Ethan pondered for a moment before suddenly pulling a metal case from his backpack. Use this. It's a military-grade psionic suppressor, can temporarily block the Dark Jade's power, but we only get one shot, and it has to be point-blank range. We hatched a simple plan. Ethan would create a diversion outside to draw Eris' attention while I moved in close to use the suppressor. Be careful. Ethan pulled me into a tight embrace before we set out. Don't leave me again this time. I won't. I rested my head against his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. In this lifetime, we're growing old together. Ethan charged out first. After several gunshots, chaos erupted outside. I quietly circled behind Eris and saw her frantically firing green energy bolts toward Ethan's direction. Damn soldier. You were the one who helped her in our past life, Eris shrieked. This time I'll kill you all. My heart pounded like a drum as I crept closer. When I was just 3 steps away, Eris suddenly turned around with a sinister grin. Knew you'd come from behind. Little sister. A beam of green light struck my chest, sending me flying several meters before I crashed hard onto the ground. The suppressor slipped from my grasp and skidded to Eris's feet. What's this? Planning to use it against me. She picked up the suppressor and crushed it effortlessly into scrap metal. Useless. Little sister, no one can stand against me now. Ethan tried to rush to my aid, but got swarmed by a group of villagers. Eris stepped closer, looking down at me with contempt. Do you know why I hate you so much? I struggled to prop myself up. Because, the Jade pendant. No, she snapped violently. Because you always get the best of everything. Grandma's favor, Ethan's love, the villagers' respect. Even after rebirth, you still get a superior spirit spring space. Her voice returned to its natural tone as the green glow in her eyes dimmed momentarily. Why are you always the lucky one? Staring at her contorted face, the truth suddenly dawned on me. You're wrong, sis. Grandma loved you just as much. You just never saw it. Lies. Eris raised her hand to strike again, then froze mid-motion. The emerald glow beneath her skin pulsed violently as hairline fractures spiderwebbed across her face. She doubled over in agony. Not now. I realized the cursed jade was backfiring. This was my chance. Gritting through the pain, I lunged at Eris, pressing my palms against her temples as I channeled every last shred of white energy into her. Erg. Eris let out an inhuman shriek, her body convulsing violently. Green and white energies clashed within her as fissures spiderwebbed across her skin. Let go. She struggled desperately. You'll get us both killed. No, I'm saving you. I gritted my teeth, maintaining the white energy flow. Eris, remember when you had a fever as a child and Grandma stayed by your bedside all night? Remember your first homemade dress when Mom praised your craftsmanship? Remember that lipstick Dad secretly bought for you? 9. Eris's resistance weakened. The green light in her eyes flickering uncertainly. They all love you. You're just too fixated on comparisons to see the happiness you already have. My voice choked with emotion. In this lifetime, I really wanted us to get along. Eris let out a blood-curdling scream as blinding emerald light erupted from her body, violently throwing me backward. I slammed against the wall, my vision going dark as I nearly lost consciousness. Through blurred vision, I saw Eris kneeling on the ground, expelling shards of green fragments, remnants of that counterfeit jade pendant. With each expelled fragment, she grew weaker, until finally collapsing and reverting to her true form. The surrounding villagers collapsed one after another, dark energy seeping from their bodies. Ethan rushed to my side and helped me up. Freya, are you okay? I'm fine. I weakly pointed at Eris. Check on her. Eris lay on the ground, her breathing shallow. Her skin was covered in fine cracks. Like a porcelain doll on the verge of shattering, I crawled to her side and found she was still conscious. Save me, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Because you're my sister, I gently held her hand. In this lifetime too, I choose to forgive. Twin tears streamed from Eris' eyes, tracing paths down her cracked cheeks. I'm sorry. At that moment, the distant thrum of helicopter blades pierced the air. Ethan's face darkened. Military reinforcements are here. Freya, we need to move now. Protocol states all paranormal incident witnesses must be taken for research. What about Eris? Ethan shook his head grimly. In her condition, they'll likely terminate her on sight. Watching Eris clinging to life, I made my decision. We're taking her with us. What? She's my sister, I said firmly. I'll cure her. Ethan locked eyes with me for a moment before finally nodding. All right, but we need to move now. He hoisted Eris onto his back as I followed close behind, the three of us sprinting toward the dense mountains behind the village. Behind us, the helicopter's searchlight swept across the village center as amplified military commands boomed. Everyone freeze. I repeat, everyone remain where you are. We ducked into the dense forest, momentarily evading pursuit, but Eris was deteriorating rapidly, her breathing nearly stopped. Blood seeping from the cracks in her skin. She won't last much longer, Ethan said after examining her. She needs immediate treatment. I grasped Eris's hand, channeling the last remnants of white light from within me into her body. The crack stopped spreading, but showed no signs of healing. Not enough, I gasped. Need more power. Ethan suddenly remembered something and pulled an amulet from his collar. Try this. It's been passed down in my family, said to have healing properties. The amulet was an ancient copper coin engraved with strange runes. The moment I placed it on Eris's chest, the bronze coin emitted a faint golden glow. The cracks on Eris's body began healing slowly, and her breathing steadied. It's working, I exclaimed in delight. Ethan's expression turned grave. But this is only a temporary fix. To fully heal her, we'll need stronger purification power. As I gazed deeper into the mountains, a thought suddenly struck me. I know where to go. Grandma's grave. The true jade pendant's power originates there, perhaps. We have no other choice. Under cover of darkness, we set out for Grandma's burial site. Eris's life, the villagers' safety, and the future between Ethan and me all hinge on this last hope. The mountain path glowed eerily pale under the moonlight. Ethan carried the barely conscious Eris on his back as I followed close behind, the three of us struggling through the dense forest. In the distance behind us, military searchlights occasionally swept across the treetops, with intermittent barks and radio static fading in and out. How much further? Ethan whispered, his military uniform soaked with sweat. Almost there, I gasped, pointing toward the mountainside. Just beyond that pine grove. Eris let out a faint moan on Ethan's back as fresh blood oozed from the cracks in her skin. The glow from the coin talisman was fading fast. We had to reach Grandma's gravesite before it died out completely. 10. Pushing through the final thicket, we emerged into sudden openness. Grandma's grave remained gaping open, the coffin lid askew, looking particularly desolate under the moonlight. I jumped into the grave and carefully examined Grandma's remains. In my haste last time, I hadn't noticed how oddly Grandma's hands were folded, almost as if deliberately pointing to a specific spot in the coffin. Ethan, give me a hand. I gently moved Grandma's arm aside and pointed to the coffin's baseboard. There's something strange here. Ethan jumped down to help, and together we lifted the baseboard to reveal the soil beneath, less than a foot deep. My fingers suddenly struck something hard, a slate stone covered in intricate carvings. This is. Ethan brushed away the dirt, exposing a recess at the center of the stone. Its shape matched the jade pendant perfectly. It suddenly dawned on me, Grandma didn't place the real jade pendant here by accident. I carefully pulled out the now lusterless pendant from my robe and fitted it into the recess. A perfect fit. In an instant, the runes on the stone slab lit up one by one, emitting a soft azure glow. The entire tomb began to tremble slightly as the earth beneath the coffin gradually sank, revealing a narrow staircase leading into the darkness below, an underground chamber. Ethan raised his eyebrows in surprise. Just who is your grandmother? I don't know. I was equally shocked. She never mentioned it. Eris suddenly started coughing violently, blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. There was no time to hesitate. Ethan hoisted her onto his back again while I led the way with the glowing stone tablet, the three of us descending the staircase. At the bottom of the stairs lay a circular stone chamber, its walls covered in ancient carvings. At the center stood a small altar, upon which rested a book with a bronze cover, an exact replica of the Sacred Spring Codex. Is this the original Sacred Spring Codex? I approached the altar, and as my fingers brushed the bronze cover, the entire stone chamber illuminated. The murals on the walls began to flow, recounting an ancient tale. A millennium ago, twin sisters discovered a mystical spring. The elder sister, consumed by greed, sought to hoard its waters for herself, while the younger selflessly wished to share it. In their conflict, the spring split in two. The elder claimed a corrupted, tainted spring, while the younger guarded the pure, sacred waters. After their deaths, their powers were sealed within two jade pendants, passed down through generations of guardians. So the sacred spring and the cursed jade share the same origin. I murmured to myself, was Grandma the guardian of this generation? Ethan placed Eris beside the altar. The mural says only a pure heart can harness the spring's power. Freya, perhaps you can save her. I knelt beside Eris, grasping her ice-cold hand. Cracks had spread across her entire body, making her look like a porcelain doll that might shatter at the slightest touch. How? The spirit spring's realm has already vanished. The bronze tome suddenly flipped open on its own, landing on a specific page. The illustration showed one person placing a hand on another's chest, with two jade pendants hovering between them. You must merge your powers, Ethan interpreted. Use the true jade to channel the dark jade energy within her and transform it into psychic energy. Taking a deep breath, I placed the true jade pendant on Eris's chest while pressing my other hand against her forehead. Close your eyes and focus on that lingering warmth within you, gently channeling it through your arm into Eris. At first, nothing happened. Suddenly, Eris convulsed violently as an emerald light erupted from her body, clashing fiercely with the white glow of the true jade pendant. Hold on, Ethan gripped my shoulders. She's resisting. I clenched my teeth and kept channeling energy. Memories of Eris flooded my mind, how she took father's beatings for me as children, secretly shared half her candy with me, mended my torn clothes. Sis, come back, I choked out. I forgive you. I always have. As if answering my plea, the green glow within Eris began fading. Merging into the white light, the jade pendant grew scorching hot until it cracked in two with a sharp snap, releasing a powerful shockwave that sent both Ethan and me tumbling to the ground. The stone chamber quaked violently as ancient murals crumbled from the walls. Ethan yanked me up by the arm. It's collapsing. We need to move. But Eris, by the altar, Eris slowly sat up. The cracks on her body were visibly healing, and the green glow in her eyes had completely faded, revealing her original brown irises. Freya, she called weakly, her voice carrying long-lost warmth. I rushed over and embraced her. Let's go. The three of them stumbled up the steps, barely escaping the tomb before the staircase collapsed behind them with a thunderous crash. Grandma's coffin sank into the earth as the tomb sealed itself shut, leaving no trace of what had transpired. The eastern sky was turning pale, heralding the dawn of a new day. Eris leaned weakly but lucidly against my shoulder, silent tears streaming down as she whispered, why did you save me? I gently wiped away her tears. Because you're my sister. The village at the foot of the mountain slowly came to life. As the dark jade's power faded, the mind-controlled villagers returned to normal. Military helicopters still circled overhead. Though the manhunt had ceased, Ethan's communicator suddenly beeped. His tense expression softened as he answered. Stand down, order from command. All anomalies have dissipated. Turning to Eris, he added, your warrant's been revoked too. The military now considers you a victim, not the mastermind. Eris lowered her head. I did commit all those wrongdoings. There's always room for redemption. Ethan patted her shoulder. First, let's get you somewhere safe to rest. 3 months later, peace returned to the village. Eris had mostly recovered. Though faint markings still lingered on her skin like silent reminders, she voluntarily apologized to the entire village and compensated the affected families with her personal savings. Ethan and I held our wedding in spring, simple yet heartwarming, with the whole village coming to bless us. To everyone's surprise, Eris gifted a hand-embroidered wedding canopy featuring mandarin ducks with entwined necks and twin lotus flowers. I don't ask for your forgiveness, she said with lowered head, just wanted you to know I've changed. I accepted the canopy and embraced her. We'll never share the closeness of ordinary sisters, but at least the chain of hatred between us has been broken. After getting married, Ethan and I started an organic farm in the village. Using ancient cultivation techniques from the Linquan manual, we grew thriving crops without chemical fertilizers or pesticides. The farm quickly became a model for the entire county, even attracting inspection visits from provincial officials. Eris moved to the county town and got a job at a garment factory. I heard she's quite skilled with her hands and has already been promoted to team leader. Every holiday, she'd send gifts, sometimes a piece of clothing, other times a pair of handmade shoes. As for the Spirit Spring space, it's truly gone forever, but curiously, whenever I focus on tending crops, a warm glow occasionally flickers at my fingertips, making the plants grow exceptionally lush. Ethan says that's the light within me, more precious than any external power. We renovated Grandma's gravesite and planted her favorite gardenias. Sometimes at dawn, I'd see dewdrops clinging to the petals like sacred spring water. Standing on the farm's high ground, gazing at the lush fields and distant rolling hills, I tightened my grip on Ethan's hand. In this lifetime, we've finally grasped happiness. The once hate-filled Freya, like the Spirit Spring realm, has now faded into the past. The end.